In the depths of our ancient past, beneath layers of time and forgotten civilizations, lie mysteries that have baffled scholars and explorers for centuries. Strange artifacts, colossal structures, and unexplained technologies, each one a clue to a history that feels more like legend than fact. From the towering pyramids of Egypt to the enigmatic stone circles in Palestine, we are left to wonder. How did our ancestors possess such knowledge, such skill, without the tools we take for granted today? And what secrets might they have left behind, waiting for us to unlock? So sit back, relax, and let's dive in as we journey through 3 hours of the world's most baffling ancient discoveries. Hidden in the archives of a dusty library in Sibiu, Romania, lies a manuscript that has puzzled historians, linguists, and cryptographers for centuries. Known simply as the Sibiu Manuscript, its pages are filled with strange symbols, a unique script that bears no resemblance to any known language. The ink, faded with time, has survived the ravages of centuries, yet its meaning remains locked, as elusive as the shadows that linger in the corners of the manuscript's pages. The Sibiu manuscript was first discovered in the 19th century, though its origins are shrouded in mystery. It is believed to date back to the early centuries of the Common Era, sometime between the 1st and 3rd centuries BC, but no definitive evidence exists to confirm this. Some experts speculate that it may have been created by the ancient Dacians, the people who once inhabited what is now modern-day Romania. But this theory is not without controversy. The Dacians left behind no written records, only oral traditions, making the idea of a manuscript written in their language both intriguing and improbable. What makes the Sibiu manuscript even more perplexing is the presence of symbols that do not match any known alphabet or script from ancient civilizations. These characters appear to be a blend of pictographs and abstract designs, a system of writing that doesn't seem to fit the established patterns of the time. Some have suggested that the symbols could represent an early form of proto-writing, a precursor to known scripts like the Phoenician or Greek alphabets. Others believe the symbols could be a form of coded language, perhaps even a cryptic message meant to conceal information from future generations. The question that continues to haunt researchers is this: if the Sibiu manuscript is indeed an ancient text, why does it appear to be so far ahead of its time? Could it be a work of exceptional intelligence? Or does it point to a knowledge lost to history? Some theorists have even suggested that the manuscript may not be from this world at all, proposing that it could be the work of an ancient civilization with knowledge far beyond what was known in the ancient world. Was it a document of secret wisdom passed down through generations, hidden from the public eye? In the years following its discovery, various attempts have been made to decode the Sibiu manuscript. Some researchers have tried to link the script to known ancient languages, such as Greek, Latin, or even Egyptian hieroglyphs. However, no consistent pattern has emerged, and no breakthrough has been made that would allow scholars to translate its contents with certainty. Some have pointed to the influence of Celtic or Slavic symbols, but these too remain speculative. One of the more intriguing theories surrounding the manuscript is that it could be a form of religious or mystical writing, perhaps a sacred text created by a long-forgotten cult or sect. The symbols within the manuscript have been compared to those found in various religious traditions, such as the symbols of the ancient mystery schools in Greece and Egypt. If this theory holds any weight, it would suggest that the manuscript might contain teachings or rituals meant for a select few, hidden away from the public eye. Yet, the more one delves into the manuscript, the more the mystery deepens. Could it be possible that the Sibiu manuscript was deliberately created to remain cryptic? A form of intellectual challenge meant to test the minds of those who would come after it? If so, who could have created such an enigmatic work, and why? Some have suggested that the manuscript could be a form of ancient prophecy, a record of a lost civilization that predicted the rise and fall of empires, or even a blueprint for the future. In some of the more fringe theories, the manuscript is linked to the idea of ancient extraterrestrial contact. The strange symbols and advanced knowledge contained within the manuscript, these theorists argue, might be evidence of an outside influence, guiding human civilization along a path of development that we have yet to fully comprehend. The manuscript's mysterious nature, its resistance to being decoded, is seen as proof that it contains knowledge far beyond the capabilities of ancient civilizations on Earth. Of course, none of these theories have been proven, and the Sibiu Manuscript remains an enigma. Scholars continue to debate its origins and its purpose, yet the manuscript itself offers no answers. As it sits in the archives, its true meaning locked behind a veil of symbols and ink, one cannot help but wonder, what if the answers we seek are not meant to be found? What if the Sibiu Manuscript was created for a time and a place far beyond our own? Perhaps in the end, the manuscript is less about what it says, and more about what it represents, a puzzle that challenges our understanding of history, a doorway to a past that we may never fully grasp. The mystery of the Sibiu Manuscript is a reminder that, even in the modern age, some questions remain unanswered, some riddles unsolved. And maybe that is the most profound mystery of all. As we leave behind the cryptic symbols of the Sibiu Manuscript, we now turn our attention to another ancient artifact, equally baffling and shrouded in mystery. Nestled in the heart of the Mediterranean, on the island of Crete, lies one of the most perplexing objects ever discovered, the Festos Disk. Found in 1908 in the ruins of the Minoan Palace at Festos, this small, circular disk of fired clay has confounded historians and archaeologists for over a century. At first glance, it seems simple enough. A disk, about 6 inches in diameter, inscribed with a series of symbols arranged in a spiral pattern. But as scholars have delved deeper into its mysteries, they have found that this seemingly unremarkable object may hold the key to an ancient code, one that has never been cracked. The Festos Disk is adorned with 241 individual symbols, many of which resemble figures, animals, and objects, though they do not correspond to any known writing system of the time. The style of the characters is unlike any other found in the ancient world. Some symbols resemble hieroglyphs, while others appear entirely unique. These marks are stamped into the surface of the disk in a spiral, winding outward from the center, almost as if to convey a message that might unravel as it turns. The method of inscription is equally curious. The disk is not carved or painted, but rather the symbols appear to have been impressed into the clay, suggesting a process of mass production, a form of printing or stamping that was advanced for its time. The Festos Disk is believed to date from the late Minoan Bronze Age, around the 15th century BC, a period known for its advanced technologies and complex societies. The Minoans, an ancient civilization that flourished on Crete, are renowned for their elaborate palaces, stunning frescoes, and sophisticated art and craftsmanship. Yet despite these accomplishments, their written language, referred to as Linear A, remains largely undeciphered. The symbols on the Festos Disk are often compared to Linear A, but they differ in significant ways. While some characters overlap, the spiral pattern and the unique arrangement of symbols set it apart as a singular enigma in the history of writing. For many years, scholars have attempted to decode the Festos Disk, but their efforts have yielded little success. Traditional methods of linguistic analysis have failed to produce a coherent translation. Some experts have proposed that the symbols represent an early form of writing, perhaps even a form of Proto-Greek or an entirely unknown language. Others have suggested that the disk could be a religious or ceremonial object, a sort of symbolic representation of cosmic order or ritualistic knowledge. The spiral itself may even hold significance, suggesting that the disk could represent the cyclical nature of life, the passage of time, or the movement of the stars. Yet, despite these theories, the true meaning of the Festos Disk remains elusive. Was it a language, a record of a lost civilization, or something far more mysterious? Could it have been a form of ancient code, a secret message intended for a select few? The pressing question is whether the disk was created for practical use or as part of a symbolic or ritualistic tradition. Some have suggested that the Festos disk might be an early form of printing, a precursor to the movable type press that would not appear for another several millennia. If this were true, it would place the Minoans on the cutting edge of technological advancement, challenging our assumptions about their capabilities. However, as with many ancient artifacts, the speculative theories surrounding the Festos disk have not been without controversy. Fringe theories abound, with some proposing that the disk was created by an advanced civilization far beyond the Minoans, perhaps even by extraterrestrial visitors. These theories, though popular in some circles, remain on the fringe of academic thought and lack solid evidence. Nevertheless, the persistence of such ideas speaks to the profound sense of mystery that surrounds the disk. One of the most intriguing aspects of the Festos disk is its isolation. While similar symbols have been found in other Minoan artifacts, the disk itself remains unique. No other object has been discovered with the same combination of characters, and no known texts from the Minoan civilization provide a clear key to deciphering the symbols. This has led some to propose that the disk was a one-of-a-kind object, perhaps a personal artifact, or even a ceremonial tool. If this was the case, then the Festos disk may hold meaning that was never intended for the public eye, only for a select group within Minoan society. In Minoans, the search for answers has been slow, with few breakthroughs in recent decades. Modern technology, including computer analysis and pattern recognition, has helped scholars make incremental progress, but the ultimate key to the disk's meaning remains hidden. Some believe that the symbols represent a language that was used by a small, elite group within the Minoan society, a language too complex or too secret to be understood by the general population. Others believe the disk is simply a form of art, created to convey a more abstract message, perhaps a reflection of the Minoans' understanding of the world around them, or even their spiritual beliefs. In the end, the Festos disk stands as a testament to the limits of our understanding of the ancient world. Its mystery has endured for over a century, and it may continue to do so for many more years to come. Like so many ancient artifacts, it challenges us to reconsider what we know about the civilizations that came before us, and to question what knowledge has been lost to time. Was the disk merely an artifact of an ancient society's quest for meaning, or does it hold a deeper secret, one that remains locked away, waiting to be uncovered? As we turn the disk in our minds, one can't help but wonder, what might still be hidden in the symbols of the Festos disk, and what will it take to finally decode its message? As we move from the ancient disk of Crete, we now journey to the farthest reaches of the Pacific, to an island whose very name conjures images of isolation and mystery: Easter Island. Here, amid the towering moai statues and the vast stretches of ocean, lies another enigma, one that has puzzled researchers and intrigued adventurers for centuries: the Rongo-Rongo Tablets. These strange wooden carvings, discovered in the 19th century, contain a script unlike any other in the world, one that has remained largely undeciphered, leaving behind a trail of questions that may never be fully answered. The tablets, made of native palm wood, are typically small, averaging around 18 to 24 inches in length, though their size can vary. On their surfaces, intricate symbols are carefully carved. Up to 120 distinct characters appear across the various tablets. These symbols, arranged in rows, often follow a pattern, spiraling in circular or linear formations. Some of the symbols resemble abstract figures, others more pictorial forms of animals, plants, and even human faces. Yet, despite their visual complexity, no one has been able to definitively translate their meaning. The mystery of Rongo-Rongo is not just in the unreadable characters, but in the very question of whether this is a true written language or something else entirely. The discovery of the Rongo-Rongo Tablets occurred in the mid-19th century when European explorers first made contact with Easter Island. At the time, the island was home to the Rapa Nui people, who had long been isolated from the outside world. The Rongo-Rongo script was found on a series of wooden tablets, as well as carved onto the bodies of statues and other objects. The inscriptions seem to follow a pattern of glyphs and signs that suggest a system of written communication, though it does not resemble any known writing system from the ancient world. What's particularly perplexing is that the Rapa Nui people themselves had no written language when Europeans arrived. The Rongo-Rongo script, therefore, raises a crucial question. How did the Rapa Nui develop this system of writing? Was it an indigenous invention, or was it influenced by an outside civilization, possibly from South America, or even further afield? Some theories suggest that the Rapa Nui were exposed to early forms of writing from the Andean civilizations of South America, possibly through contact with travelers from the West. Others argue that the script developed independently on Easter Island, arising from a system of pictorial representations that evolved into a more abstract form over time. What is perhaps most intriguing about the Rongo-Rongo tablets is their association with the island's mysterious and rapid decline. In the centuries following European contact, the Rapa Nui civilization began to unravel. Overhunting, deforestation, and the introduction of diseases decimated the population. By the time of European arrival, much of the island's once thriving society was in decline, and the written language seemed to vanish along with it. The tablets, now scattered across the world's museums, remain some of the last remnants of a lost world, a society that vanished before it could fully share its knowledge. While scholars have worked for decades to decode the Rongo-Rongo script, their efforts have yielded little progress. Some have suggested that the tablets are simply a form of mnemonic device, a way for the Rapa Nui to remember sacred chants, genealogies, or historical events. If that's the case, the script might not have been intended as a fully developed writing system at all, but rather a system of symbols used to aid memory, much like a modern-day pictorial shorthand. Others, however, believe the Rongo-Rongo tablets represent a true written language, one that once conveyed detailed information about the Rapa Nui's religious beliefs, their society, or their understanding of the world. If it was a true written language, why did it disappear so abruptly, leaving behind only cryptic clues? Over the years, various scholars have proposed theories for how the language might be deciphered. Some have attempted to match the symbols to those of other ancient writing systems, such as the Egyptian hieroglyphs or the scripts of ancient Mesopotamia. Others have looked for patterns in the symbols themselves, attempting to establish correlations between individual glyphs and sounds or meanings. Yet every attempt has been met with frustration. One of the key challenges is the lack of a Rosetta Stone-like key that could unlock the script's meaning. Unlike the Egyptian hieroglyphs, where the discovery of the Rosetta Stone allowed for the breakthrough in translation, the Rongo-Rongo script lacks any parallel text or bilingual inscriptions that might provide a vital clue. One of the more speculative theories surrounding the Rongo-Rongo tablets is that they could contain a form of coded knowledge, a sacred or esoteric language meant only for the priests or elite of Rapa Nui society. Some suggest that these symbols could represent a deeper, mystical knowledge, encoded in a way that could only be understood by those with the proper training. If this were true, the knowledge on these tablets might not have been meant to be read in the traditional sense, but rather interpreted through ritual or divine revelation. Others point to the spiral patterns on many of the tablets, suggesting that they could represent an ancient form of astronomy or navigation. Given Easter Island's remote location, far from any other inhabited landmass, it is possible that the Rongo-Rongo script was used to record the island's celestial observations, perhaps a sophisticated method of tracking the stars, the seasons, or even the movements of distant ships. This theory is supported by the Rapa Nui's impressive knowledge of astronomy, which enabled them to navigate the vast Pacific Ocean with great precision. And yet, for all the theories, the mystery of the Rongo-Rongo Tablets remains unsolved. It is a riddle that defies easy explanation, and it raises unsettling questions about what we may have lost in the ancient past. Was this script a simple tool for record-keeping, a sophisticated method of communication, or something else entirely? A hidden language, perhaps, with knowledge still locked away from the modern world? What other clues might still lie hidden in the stones and trees of Easter Island, waiting for the right moment to be uncovered? As the years pass, the Rongo-Rongo Tablets continue to hold their secrets, and with each passing generation, the possibility that they will ever be fully understood grows more remote. But perhaps this very mystery is part of their power. A reminder that there are still ancient truths buried in the earth, waiting to be discovered, waiting for us to listen. As we continue our journey through the mysteries of ancient discoveries, we now find ourselves in the land of the pharaohs, where the sands of Egypt conceal some of the most captivating enigmas in human history. Among the countless artifacts recovered from this ancient civilization, one object stands out as a particularly perplexing mystery: the Saqqara Schist disk. This small yet intricately carved artifact, discovered in 1938 in the Saqqara necropolis near the Great Pyramids, has left historians, archaeologists, and engineers scratching their heads for decades. The Saqqara Schist disk is made of a dark, polished stone called schist and measures roughly 12 inches in diameter. On its surface, detailed carvings depict a series of mysterious symbols and figures that seem to intertwine, creating a complex, almost surreal pattern. At first glance, the disk seems to bear resemblance to the kinds of religious or symbolic motifs commonly found in Egyptian art. However, there is something undeniably strange about the composition and style of these carvings, an otherworldly quality that has prompted more questions than answers. What sets the Saqqara Schist disk apart from other Egyptian artifacts is not just its appearance, but the uncertainty surrounding its purpose. Unlike many of the objects unearthed from ancient Egypt, which have a fairly straightforward function, such as tools, statues, or religious relics, the schist disk defies easy categorization. Some scholars have speculated that it might have been a ceremonial object, possibly used in religious rituals, given the symbolic nature of the carvings. Yet no clear connection between the disk and any specific deity or Egyptian religious practice has ever been established. The absence of clear iconography, the lack of direct references to known gods or myths, and the peculiar nature of the carvings themselves make it difficult to assign a definitive meaning to this object. For years, the disk was assumed to be simply another relic from the complex web of Egypt's dynastic history. Yet, the deeper one looks, the more anomalies emerge. The symbols etched onto the disk do not resemble any known Egyptian script, nor do they align with the artistic conventions of the time. The carving style itself has a peculiar fluidity, with curving lines and swirling patterns that give the disk a sense of motion, something not typical in Egyptian art, which tends to favor more rigid geometric forms. There are also several areas of the disk that have led some to believe it may represent a form of ancient knowledge, lost to time. One of the most intriguing aspects of the Saqqara Schist disk is the central motif, a mysterious figure that some have likened to a bird, though its exact identity is open to interpretation. Surrounding this figure are a series of concentric rings, each one containing smaller symbols, some resembling shapes that could be interpreted as stars, planets, or celestial bodies. The layout of the disk has led some to theorize that it could be a kind of ancient star map, or perhaps even a representation of the solar system, with the bird-like figure symbolizing a deity or force related to the heavens. Was this disk a tool for celestial navigation, a record of astronomical knowledge that the Egyptians possessed long before the rise of modern science? There are other, more speculative theories as well. Some researchers have pointed to the possibility that the disk is a kind of device, perhaps a kind of ancient mechanism for some unknown purpose. The suggestion that it could have been used as a form of early technology or even as a component in some larger unknown machine has been proposed, but this idea remains highly speculative. After all, there is no evidence of other objects from the same period that could corroborate this theory. And yet, the disk's mysterious features, its detailed, precise carvings, and the sense of function embedded in its design suggest that it may have served a purpose far beyond mere decoration. One of the most controversial ideas to emerge in recent years is the suggestion that the Saqqara schist disk may not even be Egyptian in origin at all. A small but vocal group of researchers has put forward the theory that the disk could be the product of a lost civilization, one that predates the ancient Egyptians by thousands of years. This theory posits that the disk could have been created by a culture with advanced knowledge of astronomy and mathematics, a society that left behind only fragments of its legacy. Some have even suggested that this lost civilization could have had contact with the Egyptians, influencing their artistic and scientific developments. While no direct evidence supports this claim, the idea that ancient Egypt may have inherited or been influenced by much older knowledge is a thought-provoking one. For all the speculation, however, the disk remains largely a mystery. Archaeologists and historians have yet to find any concrete evidence that can definitively explain its purpose, and no parallels have been found in other ancient Egyptian artifacts that might offer a clue. The Saqqara schist disk, it seems, is an anomaly that refuses to fit neatly into the established narrative of Egyptian history. The mystery of the disk is compounded by the context in which it was discovered. The Saqqara necropolis, a vast burial ground stretching across the desert landscape, was the site of many important religious and royal structures, including the famous Step Pyramid of Djoser. The area has long been a focal point for archaeological exploration, yet the discovery of the disk was somewhat serendipitous, almost as though it was waiting to be found. It's possible that the disk was part of a larger collection of objects now lost to time, buried beneath centuries of sand, or perhaps even deliberately hidden from view. If this disk was indeed part of an ancient ritual or belief system, what other objects, symbols, or knowledge might remain buried, waiting to be uncovered? And so we are left with more questions than answers. Was the Saqqara schist disk an object of astronomical importance, a key to understanding the ancient Egyptians' knowledge of the cosmos? Or was it something far more enigmatic, an artifact of a forgotten civilization, or even a mystical object with meanings we are yet to comprehend? Whatever its purpose, the disk remains an enduring mystery, a piece of ancient history whose significance may yet elude us. As the sands of time continue to shift, we can only wonder, what might still be hidden in the ruins of Saqqara, and what secrets might the Saqqara schist disk still hold? The answers, it seems, are waiting just beyond our reach. From the ancient sands of Egypt to the remote island of Easter Island, we've explored some of the most enigmatic discoveries ever made. But our journey through the corridors of ancient mysteries doesn't end here. Next, we turn our attention to a discovery in the heart of Eastern Europe, in the quiet hills of Tărtăria, Romania, a place where 3 small clay tablets were unearthed, each etched with strange symbols that have defied interpretation for over half a century. These are the Tărtăria Tablets, and they may represent one of the most significant yet puzzling archaeological finds in human history. The tablets were discovered in 1961 in a burial mound near the village of Tărtăria, which lies in the heart of Transylvania. The artifacts themselves are simple in form, each no larger than a few inches across, made of fired clay. At first glance, they appear to be unremarkable, just simple pieces of pottery with unusual markings. But the carvings on these tablets are anything but ordinary. The symbols etched into the clay are arranged in a series of lines, almost like a written script, though the characters themselves do not match any known language from the ancient world. The Tărtăria Tablets are believed to date back to around 5,300 BC, placing them in the early Neolithic period, a time when the first settled communities were emerging across Europe. These early societies were on the cusp of developing agriculture and writing, concepts that would transform human civilization forever. However, the symbols on the Tărtăria Tablets do not align with any established script from this period. Some scholars believe the markings resemble a form of proto-writing, a system of symbolic representations that predated the fully developed written languages of the ancient world, such as Sumerian cuneiform or Egyptian hieroglyphs. But others have suggested that the tablets could be entirely unique, a form of communication developed by a long-lost, unknown culture. The mystery of the Tărtăria Tablets lies in their very nature. The symbols do not correspond to any established language or known cultural tradition. The most compelling comparison has been to the symbols found on the Vinca tablets, another set of mysterious artifacts discovered in what is now Serbia. Like the Tărtăria tablets, the Vinca symbols have been linked to a pre-writing system, but no consensus has been reached as to their meaning or origin. Some have even speculated that these two sets of symbols are related, suggesting that the people of the early Danube Valley civilization shared a common symbolic language. But if these tablets are truly part of a proto-writing system, the question arises, why have these ancient scripts never developed into a full written language? Were they simply a transitional phase in the evolution of human communication? Or was there something more profound at play? The location of the Tărtăria tablets only deepens the mystery. The site where they were found, near the village of Tărtăria, is an ancient burial mound, suggesting that these tablets were buried with someone important, perhaps a priest, shaman, or leader. The presence of symbols on the tablets could indicate that they were not merely decorative objects, but tools for recording knowledge or transmitting ideas. If this is true, what kind of knowledge or ideas did they contain? Were the symbols used for ritualistic purposes, representing spiritual or cosmic beliefs, or were they a record of the daily life of the people who lived in this part of Europe thousands of years ago? What makes the Tărtăria tablets particularly fascinating is the possibility that they represent an early form of writing, one that existed long before the emergence of the Sumerians in Mesopotamia or the Egyptians in the Nile Valley. Could these tablets be evidence of a lost civilization, a people who developed writing independently, only to disappear without leaving a trace? It is possible that the symbols etched into the clay were part of an advanced system of communication, a language that was used for thousands of years, only to be forgotten as cultures shifted and empires rose and fell. In fact, some have proposed that the Tărtăria tablets represent a much older form of writing, perhaps even one that predates the Sumerians by thousands of years. This theory is supported by the fact that the tablets were found in the same region where some of Europe's earliest known Neolithic settlements were established, suggesting that this part of the world was home to people who were experimenting with writing and symbolic representation long before the rise of Mesopotamian civilization. But if this is the case, then why did the writing system on the Tărtăria tablets never develop into a fully recognized script, as we see with the Sumerians or Egyptians? Was it simply abandoned, or is there a deeper reason why this early form of writing was never used beyond its initial creation? There are those who believe that the Tărtăria tablets may not be a form of writing at all, Some scholars have suggested that the symbols on the tablets could represent something far more abstract, perhaps a series of marks created for ritualistic or symbolic purposes. In this view, the tablets may have been used to communicate ideas, not through written words, but through a visual language of symbols designed to evoke emotions, ideas, or spiritual beliefs. The idea that the Tărtăria Tablets could represent a form of proto-symbolism rather than writing challenges the traditional understanding of the evolution of written communication. If this interpretation is correct, then the tablets may not be evidence of a lost written language, but rather a glimpse into the ways in which early human societies used symbols to convey meaning long before the invention of formal writing. And then there is the more speculative view, the idea that the Tărtăria Tablets may have been part of a broader system of knowledge, passed down through generations, containing information that was meant to be kept hidden or protected. This theory suggests that the symbols on the tablets were encoded messages, not meant to be easily understood by the uninitiated, but instead reserved for a select few who possessed the key to deciphering them. If this is the case, what was the knowledge hidden in these symbols? Could the tablets be a record of an ancient prophecy, a religious text, or a system of knowledge that was too powerful or dangerous for ordinary people to understand? The Tărtăria Tablets remain, to this day, one of the most perplexing and elusive archaeological discoveries ever made. Despite decades of research and analysis, their meaning has remained locked away, and their purpose is still unknown. Were they an early form of writing, a tool for recording knowledge, or something entirely different? The possibilities are endless, and each theory raises more questions than it answers. As we continue to search for answers, we are reminded that there are still vast stretches of human history that remain hidden from us, waiting for the right moment to be uncovered. What other secrets do the Tărtăria Tablets hold, and what might still be waiting to be discovered in the soil of Eastern Europe? From the distant hills of Transylvania, we now journey to the shores of Lake Kastoria in northern Greece, where a discovery has raised more questions than answers. It was here, in 1993, that the Dispilio Tablet was unearthed, a small, unassuming piece of wooden bark etched with a series of symbols that could change the way we understand the origins of writing in Europe. But what makes this discovery so remarkable is not just the tablet's age, nor even the mystery of its inscriptions. It's the possibility that it might represent Europe's earliest known example of written language. The Dispilio Tablet is not a large artifact. It measures just around 6 inches by 4 inches, with a surface that appears worn and weathered by centuries of exposure to the elements. The tablet was found in a Neolithic settlement on the shores of Lake Kastoria, which dates back to around 5,300 BC, placing it firmly in the early stages of human civilization, when communities were beginning to shift from a hunter-gatherer lifestyle to settled agricultural societies. What's remarkable is not only its age, but also the material. The tablet is made from a piece of birch bark, a relatively fragile medium that would not have been the first choice for creating lasting records. Yet, somehow, this small piece of bark survived thousands of years, buried beneath layers of earth and sediment, only to be discovered by chance, when the waters of the lake receded during a particularly dry summer. On the surface of the Dispilio Tablet, a series of symbols have been etched into the wood. There are 13 distinct markings, arranged in a series of lines and clusters, some of which resemble geometric shapes, others abstract symbols that seem to defy categorization. The carvings are small but precise, suggesting that they were made with intent, perhaps for a purpose we can't yet fully grasp. At first glance, these symbols may appear primitive, but there's something about the way they're arranged, the deliberate precision of the markings, that suggests a higher level of cognitive development. If this tablet is indeed a form of writing, it would push the origins of written language back by thousands of years, suggesting that the concept of writing, or at least some form of symbolic representation, was already in use long before the rise of Mesopotamian civilization. The discovery of the Dispilio Tablet has sparked a lively debate among scholars, with some hailing it as the earliest known example of writing in Europe, while others remain skeptical. The main argument against its status as true writing lies in the fact that no clear connection has been established between these symbols and any known language or system of communication. Some believe the markings could simply be decorative or symbolic, rather than a functional script. Others suggest that the symbols represent a form of proto-writing, a system of symbols that might have been used for record-keeping, ritualistic purposes, or simply as a way to convey abstract concepts. But the absence of a direct link to any known script, whether from Mesopotamia, Egypt, or elsewhere, means that the Dispilio Tablet remains a solitary, enigmatic object, its true meaning forever elusive. To understand the significance of the Dispilio Tablet, we need to consider its context. The settlement near Lake Castoria, where the tablet was found, was part of the broader Neolithic expansion across Europe. During this time, humans were transitioning from small, mobile groups of hunter-gatherers to more complex, sedentary societies. These early farming communities required new ways of organizing their world, from tracking agricultural cycles to recording social relations. But how exactly did these early Europeans communicate their thoughts, beliefs, and daily transactions? Was this tablet a glimpse into that early system? If so, could it represent one of the first steps in the development of a written language? In the centuries that followed, writing systems would emerge in Mesopotamia, Egypt, and the Indus Valley, each of them laying the foundations for the complex scripts we use today. But what about Europe? Could the Dispilio Tablet represent an earlier, independent attempt at writing? The theory is not without merit. While the writing systems of ancient Mesopotamia and Egypt are well documented and understood, the history of writing in Europe remains far murkier. In fact, most of the earliest known writing systems in Europe are not related to alphabetic scripts at all, but rather to symbolic or pictorial representations that only later evolved into forms of true writing. The Dispilio Tablet, with its abstract symbols and precise carvings, might represent an early stage in that evolutionary process, a bridge between simple symbols and the fully developed written language systems that would emerge millennia later. But if the tablet is indeed a form of writing, what was its purpose? Was it used for record-keeping, or was it more symbolic in nature, perhaps tied to religious or ritualistic practices? Some have suggested that the markings could be related to lunar or solar cycles, perhaps a primitive form of astronomical record. The Neolithic people who lived near Lake Castoria would have relied heavily on their observations of the natural world to guide their agricultural activities, and a system of marks to track the phases of the moon or the passage of the seasons would have been of critical importance. Could this tablet be a record of those cycles, a tool for organizing time and the agricultural year? Or, as some have speculated, could it be a form of early religious iconography, used in rituals or ceremonies to invoke the gods? Another intriguing possibility is that the tablet could have been part of a larger system of communication, a written form of storytelling or history. Could the Dispilio Tablet have been used to convey stories or myths, passed down through generations in a form that we can no longer understand? Given that the Neolithic period was a time of great social and cultural transformation, it is possible that this tablet represents an early attempt to capture the world around them in a permanent form, a precursor to the written records that would later define human civilization. And yet, for all the speculation, we are left with more questions than answers. If the Dispilio Tablet is indeed a form of writing, what else might it represent? Is it a solitary example of a lost writing tradition, or could there be other tablets, hidden beneath the earth, waiting to be discovered? What other clues lie buried in the ancient settlements of Europe, waiting for us to decipher their meaning? The Dispilio Tablet remains a mystery, an artifact that challenges our understanding of early human communication and the development of writing. While the answer may never be fully clear, it offers us a glimpse into a time long past, when symbols and marks were used to represent ideas, to capture the passage of time, and to make sense of the world. As we continue to search for the origins of writing, the Dispilio Tablet stands as a reminder of how much we have yet to uncover about the distant past, and how many mysteries still remain unsolved. From the quiet shores of Lake Castoria, we now shift our focus to one of the most intriguing and foundational artifacts from the ancient world, the Sumerian king list prism. This small, yet immensely significant tablet of black limestone, discovered in the ruins of Sippar in modern-day Iraq, offers a glimpse into the earliest narratives of kingship, dynastic power, and history itself. It is a work of both myth and reality, weaving the annals of Sumerian rulers into a tapestry that spans thousands of years, yet raises more questions than it answers. The Sumerian king list prism stands as a historical record, but also as a mystery, much like the very civilization it comes from. The prism itself is a relatively unassuming object, measuring just under a foot in height, but it is covered with an inscription in cuneiform script, one of the oldest known forms of writing. The list it contains is not simply a chronological account of Sumerian rulers. It also includes tales of gods and legendary kings whose reigns are said to stretch back into a mythical past, in some cases ruling for tens of thousands of years. These extraordinary claims are what set the Sumerian king list apart from other historical records, and what makes it so intriguing for modern scholars. At first glance, the tablet appears to be just a list of names, rulers who reigned in Sumer, the cradle of civilization, beginning with the legendary kings of pre-dynastic times. But as you delve deeper into its details, you are confronted with a troubling contradiction. While the first several kings are well-known historical figures, whose reigns can be roughly correlated with other historical records, the list quickly spirals into the fantastic. Some of these kings are said to have ruled for tens of thousands of years, even as much as 28,000 years, and their accomplishments, though grand, seem more mythological than historical. For example, one king, the legendary Alulim, is said to have ruled for 28,800 years. Another, Enmen-Lu-Ana, is claimed to have ruled for 43,200 years. How could such figures fit within the framework of historical reality? The Sumerian king list raises questions about how the ancient Sumerians viewed time and history. Could these astronomical reigns be a symbolic way to represent the timeless and divine nature of kingship? Was this an exaggeration of royal power, a form of myth-making designed to place the rulers of Sumer in a context that transcended mere human experience? Or is there a deeper truth embedded in the king list, one that speaks to a lost understanding of time, one that we can barely comprehend today? The list doesn't just include rulers from the distant past. It also spans dynastic periods, detailing rulers of various Sumerian city-states. It provides a link between mythological history and the more tangible historical kings whose reigns can be more reliably dated, such as Gilgamesh, the famed hero and king of Uruk. While the mythical figures fade into legend, historical kings like Gilgamesh appear as real men, with reigns more grounded in the timeline we recognize today. Yet, even Gilgamesh's reign is part of the larger mystery. His story, immortalized in the Epic of Gilgamesh, blends history with myth, leaving us to wonder where fact ends and myth begins. The list concludes with the more familiar historical rulers like Ur-Nammu, who founded the third dynasty of Ur, and whose reign has been confirmed by archaeological evidence. Yet even here, the Sumerian king list raises important questions. For example, how reliable is the information it presents? Is it possible that the later kings' names and reigns were fabricated? added to lend legitimacy to new dynasties or to emphasize the importance of divine favor? Or could there have been some form of symbolic continuity where later rulers saw themselves as the legitimate heirs to a timeless tradition stretching back to these mythical kings? As with many ancient texts, the Sumerian king list operates on two levels, one as a historical record and another as a mythological chronicle. What is most striking about this artifact, however, is how it blends these two realms, how it allows us to glimpse into a time when history and mythology were not distinct categories, but were interwoven to tell a larger, more profound story about power, divinity, and human existence. The blending of gods with men on this list suggests that for the Sumerians, rulers were not simply political figures, but divine intermediaries, vessels of divine will, and embodiments of cosmic order. It's easy to dismiss the Sumerian king list as a fanciful, exaggerated narrative, but doing so misses the larger point. The existence of such an artifact raises essential questions about the nature of power and how it was perceived by the earliest civilizations. What did it mean to be a king in Sumer? How did the Sumerians understand the passage of time? And how did they use their kings to anchor their civilizations in a world that, to them, was governed by divine forces and celestial cycles? The mysteries of the Sumerian king list have led to many theories. Some scholars suggest that the long reigns of these kings were symbolic representations of their divine right to rule. Others propose that the excessive lengths of these reigns could be related to an entirely different form of timekeeping, possibly even astronomical cycles that we have yet to fully comprehend. Some fringe theories, however, suggest that these figures could be records of real, though extraordinarily long-lived kings from a distant past, perhaps even survivors of a lost civilization, or the result of some ancient, forgotten technology that prolonged life. Despite these speculations, the lack of direct evidence for such theories leaves the Sumerian king list in a realm of mystery. Could these kings, who ruled for tens of thousands of years, be a record of real, forgotten monarchs? Or were they symbols of a divine order, a way for the Sumerians to imagine their rulers as the eternal embodiment of celestial law? The answer remains elusive. As we reflect on the Sumerian king list prism, it's impossible not to wonder what other knowledge might be hidden within the ancient annals of history. What do we still have to learn about the early Sumerians and their view of kingship, time, and divinity? And, perhaps more importantly, how much of what we think we know about the past is shaped by the myths and legends that survived, not as historical truths, but as cultural expressions of something far more profound and unknowable? The Sumerian king list leaves us with these lingering questions, suggesting that there is still much to uncover about the intersection of history, myth, and the distant past. As we continue our journey through the world of ancient discoveries, we now find ourselves in a remote and often overlooked corner of the ancient world, the Iranian Plateau. Here, in the arid expanse of what is now the Jiroft region in southern Iran, archaeologists have uncovered artifacts that have left historians and scholars struggling to understand their true origins and purpose. Among these artifacts, one particular discovery stands out: the Jiroft chlorite vessels. These exquisitely crafted, enigmatic vessels may hold the key to understanding an ancient civilization that has, until recently, been largely forgotten. The Jiroft region itself is a landscape of contrasts. It is a harsh, dry area, surrounded by mountains and plains, where the passage of time has left only ruins and remnants of a distant past. Yet, beneath the surface of this seemingly barren land, a hidden world was once flourishing. The Jiroft chlorite vessels were uncovered in the early 2000s during excavations of a site known as the Jiroft culture, or the Bronze Age civilization of Jiroft. The vessels themselves are made of a distinctive green stone called chlorite, a mineral that was highly prized for its vibrant color and smooth texture. They come in a variety of shapes, ranging from simple bowls and jars to more complex and intricate designs, and each is adorned with finely detailed carvings that seem to tell a story. At first glance, the vessels appear to be beautifully crafted, almost otherworldly in their precision and elegance. The fact that they were made from chlorite, a relatively rare and durable stone, suggests that they were important objects, perhaps used in ceremonial or ritual contexts. The carving on the vessels is equally remarkable. The patterns and designs are highly stylized, yet they seem to convey a sense of order and meaning. Some of the vessels feature intricate motifs that resemble animals, geometric shapes, and even human figures, leading some to speculate that they may have served as symbolic representations of gods, spirits, or cosmological forces. But what exactly did these symbols mean? And what was the function of these vessels in the society that created them? The Jiroft civilization, which existed around 3000 BC, was, until recently, a mystery. Little was known about its people or their culture, and the discovery of the chlorite vessels has raised more questions than it has answered. Unlike the well-documented civilizations of Mesopotamia, Egypt, and the Indus Valley, Jiroft remains an enigma. It's possible that the people of this region were contemporaries of the early Mesopotamians, and may have even had contact with them. The sophisticated craftsmanship of the Jiroft chlorite vessels suggests a culture with advanced knowledge of stoneworking, art, and perhaps even trade. Yet, despite the wealth of material culture uncovered at the site, there is no clear indication of what kind of society the Jiroft people had. No written records, no monumental architecture, and no direct connection to the other great civilizations of the time. What makes the Jiroft chlorite vessels particularly intriguing is the mystery surrounding their origin. How did the people of Jiroft, a relatively isolated region in ancient times, come to possess such advanced skills in stone carving? The very nature of these vessels suggests a culture that was not only highly skilled in craftsmanship, but also had an intricate understanding of symbolism and artistry. Were these vessels used for religious ceremonies, perhaps as offerings to gods or ancestors? Or were they simply practical items, intended for everyday use? The lack of definitive answers has led some scholars to propose that the Jiroft civilization may have been part of an even older, more widespread network of cultures, one that spanned from the Persian Gulf to the Indus Valley. If this is the case, could the Jiroft people have been part of a larger, forgotten world of trade and cultural exchange, a network that connected distant civilizations long before the rise of the great empires? One of the most captivating theories surrounding the Jiroft chlorite vessels is that they might be evidence of an unknown or lost civilization. Some have suggested that the people of Jiroft were part of a broader, prehistorical culture that predates the rise of the Sumerians and other well-known ancient civilizations. This theory posits that the vessels could be part of a larger system of art, writing, and ritual that has simply not survived in the historical record. Could these vessels, with their detailed carvings, represent the remnants of a civilization that has since been lost to time? And if so, what else might remain buried beneath the sands of the Iranian plateau, waiting to be discovered? There is also the possibility that the Jiroft chlorite vessels were used for a more practical purpose, such as storing food, water, or other materials. However, their intricate designs and the fact that they appear to have been buried with care and reverence suggest that they were likely objects of greater significance. Some researchers have pointed to the similarity between the Jiroft vessels and other ceremonial objects found in ancient Mesopotamia, suggesting that they could have been used in religious or ritualistic practices. Yet, without clear evidence of a written language or detailed historical records, it remains impossible to know for certain. Further complicating the mystery is the debate over the exact dating of the Jiroft chlorite vessels. While they are generally believed to date back to the early 3rd millennium BC, There is some disagreement over whether they belong to the same time period as the great early civilizations of Mesopotamia, or if they are older, perhaps representing a precursor to these societies. This uncertainty raises additional questions about the connections between the Jiroft people and their neighbors. Were the Jiroft people part of a larger regional network, engaging in trade and cultural exchange with Mesopotamia, or were they entirely isolated, developing their own unique culture in relative seclusion? Despite the many mysteries surrounding the Jiroft chlorite vessels, one thing is clear. They represent a crucial piece of a puzzle that remains unsolved. These stunning objects, with their intricate carvings and unknown origins, invite us to look deeper into the ancient past and reconsider the assumptions we have about the development of early human civilization. What other secrets might lie buried beneath the earth in this remote region of Iran? And what other lost civilizations, with their art, technology, and knowledge, are waiting to be rediscovered? As we continue to explore the ancient discoveries that still elude our understanding, the Jiroft chlorite vessels stand as a reminder of how much we still have to learn. What stories, what hidden knowledge might they hold, if only we can decipher their meaning? Only time and further excavation will tell. As we leave the deserts of Iran behind, we now turn our attention to the lush, fog-shrouded mountains of southern China, to a site that has challenged everything we thought we knew about the ancient cultures of East Asia. Here, in the Sanxingdui archaeological site, a discovery was made that continues to mystify scholars and archaeologists alike: the Sanxingdui gold scepters. These objects, gleaming in their otherworldly form, provide a rare and tantalizing glimpse into the spiritual and political practices of a long-lost civilization, but also raise more questions than they answer. The site of Sanxingdui is located in what is now the Sichuan province of China. In the 1980s, excavations uncovered a treasure trove of artifacts buried beneath layers of earth, some of which were so unlike anything previously found in ancient China that they appeared almost alien in their design. Among the most extraordinary of these finds were the gold scepters, beautifully crafted and rich with symbolic significance. These objects, some over a foot in length, are fashioned from gold, their delicate curves and sharp edges shaped into forms that resemble both ritual tools and symbols of authority. Their gleaming surfaces suggest that they were once wielded by powerful individuals, perhaps rulers or priests. Yet the exact purpose of these scepters remains a mystery. The scepters are adorned with intricate designs, featuring motifs that appear to blend human and animal features. Some of the figures depicted seem almost mythical, with exaggerated eyes, elongated faces, and sharply defined contours. These representations have led some scholars to speculate that the people of Sanxingdui had an elaborate mythology, one that intertwined both human and supernatural beings. But could these figures represent deities or spirits, or are they simply the stylized representations of human rulers and warriors? The absence of written records from the Sanxingdui culture makes it difficult to decipher the exact meaning behind these designs, leaving much of the interpretation open to conjecture. Sanxingdui itself was an advanced and sophisticated culture, existing during the Shang dynasty of China, around 1200 to 1000 BC, but the people of this civilization left behind no clear connection to other known Chinese cultures of the time. They had no known written language, and there are no surviving records to tell us who they were, how they lived, or why their civilization seemingly disappeared. It is as though the people of Sanxingdui existed for a time and then vanished, leaving behind only these cryptic artifacts, which have since raised more questions than answers. What makes the Sanxingdui gold scepters particularly intriguing is the mystery surrounding their creation. Gold, a material often associated with power, wealth, and divinity, was not commonly used in ancient China at this time. Yet here, in the heart of the Sichuan Basin, these scepters were crafted with an artistry and precision that suggests a highly advanced civilization, one capable of refining gold into intricate forms and utilizing it for ceremonial or symbolic purposes. The craftsmanship of these scepters is unparalleled in the region, suggesting that the Sanxingdui people were not only skilled artisans, but also had access to technologies and materials that were far beyond what was available to other contemporary cultures in China. What was the function of these scepters? Were they simply symbols of royal authority, wielded by kings or high-ranking priests? Or did they have a more complex role, perhaps serving as tools for communication with the divine, or as part of ritualistic ceremonies? The exact nature of their purpose is unknown, and the fact that no direct evidence has been found to explain the significance of these objects only deepens the mystery. Some researchers have suggested that the gold scepters were part of a larger ritualistic system used in religious ceremonies to connect the rulers of Sanxingdui with the gods or the spirits of the ancestors. This would not be unusual for ancient cultures, where rulers were often seen as intermediaries between the divine and the human world. However, the highly stylized and abstract nature of the scepters makes this theory difficult to confirm. The golden material and the intricate designs suggest a powerful connection to a belief system, one that was intimately tied to both the rulers and the religious life of the people. Could these scepters have been used to convey divine authority, or were they symbolic representations of a greater cosmic order, where human rulers were seen as earthly embodiments of celestial forces, Another theory revolves around the possibility that the Sanxingdui gold scepters were part of an elite or ruling class's insignia, perhaps marking important figures in the hierarchy of the Sanxingdui society. Given their elaboration and the rarity of gold in ancient China at the time, these scepters may have been reserved for only the most powerful individuals, likely kings or priests who wielded significant influence over the people. Yet, despite these theories, no conclusive evidence has been found to suggest how power and governance functioned in Sanxingdui society. How did this civilization organize itself? What was its political structure? Was it as complex as other contemporaneous civilizations, such as the Shang or Zhou dynasties? There is also the unsettling possibility that the Sanxingdui gold scepters, along with other discoveries from the site, are remnants of a forgotten or lost civilization, one whose connection to later Chinese cultures remains obscured. Some fringe theories suggest that the people of Sanxingdui may have had contact with far-flung civilizations, perhaps through trade or migration routes that extended as far as Mesopotamia, Egypt, or even the Indus Valley. Could there have been cultural exchanges between distant civilizations that we have yet to uncover? What if these gold scepters were not just symbols of local power, but part of a much larger cultural network, one that existed long before the rise of the great dynasties of China? The absence of written records from the Sanxingdui civilization only adds to the allure of the gold scepters. Without inscriptions or other forms of documentation, we are left to interpret these objects based on their physical characteristics alone. But this leaves us with an open-ended puzzle. What did the people of Sanxingdui believe in? What was the true nature of their society, their rulers, and their connection to the divine? The gold scepters, with their rich symbolism and craftsmanship, offer a tantalizing but elusive glimpse into an ancient world that remains mostly shrouded in mystery. As we reflect on the Sanxingdui gold scepters, we are reminded of how much remains hidden in the folds of ancient history. These objects, crafted with extraordinary skill and rich with mystery, offer us only a fragment of the story, a story that, like so many other ancient discoveries, remains incomplete. What else lies buried beneath the earth in the Sanxingdui site? What other symbols, tools, and artifacts are waiting to be uncovered? The mystery of Sanxingdui continues to unfold, and with each discovery we are left to wonder, how much more is there to learn about the lost civilization that once thrived in the heart of ancient China? As we leave behind the enigmatic treasures of Sanxingdui, We now journey across the vast landscapes of South America to the high-altitude plateaus of Bolivia. Here, nestled near the shores of Lake Titicaca, lies a discovery that continues to perplex scholars and archaeologists alike: the Fuente Magna bowl. This seemingly simple artifact, a bowl made of ceramic, could very well hold the key to a forgotten chapter of human history, one that challenges everything we thought we knew about the ancient cultures of the Americas. The Fuente Magna bowl was unearthed in 1958 near the village of Tiahuanaco, an area rich with ancient ruins and artifacts that date back thousands of years. The bowl itself is unassuming in appearance, yet it is adorned with intricate carvings and markings that set it apart from other pottery found in the region. What makes the Fuente Magna bowl so intriguing, however, is not the craftsmanship itself, but the inscriptions etched into its surface. The markings appear to resemble ancient Sumerian cuneiform script, an ancient writing system used in Mesopotamia that is thousands of miles away from the Andes. The implications of this discovery are profound, yet the true meaning of the inscriptions and the bowl's purpose remain shrouded in mystery. The Fuente Magna bowl is made of a reddish-brown ceramic material, typical of the region, but its real significance lies in the symbols that decorate it. These symbols are unlike anything seen in the indigenous cultures of the Andes, particularly in the pre-Columbian period. The script etched into the surface of the bowl closely resembles the ancient cuneiform writing system used by the Sumerians, who lived in present-day Iraq over 5,000 years ago. This unexpected resemblance has sparked a flurry of speculation among researchers. Could this be evidence of contact between ancient Mesopotamia and South America long before Columbus set sail? Or could the markings be part of an entirely separate yet strikingly similar writing system developed independently by the cultures of the Andean highlands? The bowl itself is thought to date from around 1200 BC, a time when the Andean cultures were flourishing, yet there is little evidence of significant external influences at this point in history. The Fuente Magna bowl challenges this assumption, suggesting the possibility of far-reaching cultural exchanges that have yet to be fully understood. If the script is indeed Sumerian, how did it end up so far from Mesopotamia? What was the connection between these two seemingly distant worlds, and what role did the Fuente Magna bowl play in that connection? There are many theories about the Fuente Magna bowl and its markings, but none are universally accepted. The most straightforward explanation is that the bowl's inscriptions are a form of ancient writing, possibly used for ritualistic or ceremonial purposes. Some scholars believe the symbols represent early forms of communication or record-keeping among the Andean peoples, and that the resemblance to Sumerian cuneiform is simply coincidental, a case of parallel development. This would suggest that different cultures, independent of each other, arrived at similar methods of representing language and ideas, much like how early human societies in different parts of the world developed agriculture, tools, and religious practices on their own. However, the notion of parallel development does not fully account for the striking similarities between the Fuente Magna bowl's markings and Sumerian cuneiform. Some researchers have proposed more speculative theories, ones that suggest the possibility of direct contact between the ancient civilizations of Mesopotamia and the Andes. Could the Fuente Magna bowl be evidence of a lost civilization or a long-forgotten trade route that connected distant cultures across vast oceans? Could the people of Sumer have traveled across the Pacific Ocean, reaching the shores of South America long before the age of European exploration? While there is no direct evidence to support this theory, the similarity in the script on the bowl has led to much debate, with some suggesting that ancient maritime cultures may have had the technology and the knowledge to travel such distances. Another theory posits that the symbols on the Fuente Magna bowl are not part of a written language at all, but rather symbolic or pictorial representations used for ceremonial purposes. In this view, The markings could represent religious or cosmological beliefs, linking the bowl to the broader spiritual traditions of the Andean cultures. This interpretation would suggest that the Fuente Magna bowl was not a tool for communication in the sense we understand writing today, but rather an object imbued with ritualistic significance. In this context, the Sumerian-like script could be a form of symbolic language, a sacred code, rather than a practical written system. The Fuente Magna bowl has also sparked speculation about the role of advanced knowledge in the ancient Americas. Were the cultures of South America, particularly in the Andes, more advanced than we give them credit for? The Andean civilizations were certainly sophisticated, with advanced knowledge of agriculture, astronomy, and architecture, as evidenced by the impressive ruins of places like Machu Picchu and Tiahuanaco. But could there have been an even deeper level of knowledge, one that we have yet to fully uncover? The Fuente Magna bowl, with its mysterious script and intricate design, could represent a piece of this lost knowledge, an artifact that connects the dots between ancient peoples, suggesting a far-reaching network of cultural exchange that we have yet to fully understand. One of the most perplexing aspects of the Fuente Magna bowl is the lack of context in which it was found. The bowl was discovered in a burial site, but there is little information about its use or the people who created it. Was it part of a larger collection of artifacts, or was it a solitary object, its significance lost to time? The lack of clear evidence surrounding its use makes it difficult to definitively determine its purpose, leaving researchers with only speculation. Despite the many theories and debates, the mystery of the Fuente Magna bowl remains unsolved. What was its true purpose, and how did its markings end up resembling a writing system from a distant and ancient culture? Could this bowl be evidence of a forgotten chapter of human history, one that connects ancient civilizations across continents? Or is it simply a case of parallel development, where two cultures arrived at similar ways of representing the world around them? As we reflect on the Fuente Magna bowl, we are reminded of how much of the past remains hidden and how much we have yet to uncover. Could this small, unassuming artifact hold the key to understanding a lost connection between the ancient civilizations of the Americas and the Old World? Or are we looking at a cultural mystery that may never be fully understood? The Fuente Magna bowl invites us to question the boundaries of human history and wonder what other secrets still lie buried, waiting to be discovered. As we continue our journey through the veil of ancient mysteries, we now find ourselves in the shadow of one of Egypt's most sacred sites, Abydos. Located on the western bank of the Nile, Abydos is one of the oldest and most important religious centers in Egypt, known for its vast temple complex dedicated to Osiris, the god of the afterlife. The site has long been a place of pilgrimage, drawing the faithful who sought to honor the god who, according to Egyptian mythology, was the ruler of the underworld and the protector of the dead. But among the temple's many intricate carvings, one relief stands out: the Abydos helicopter relief, a carving that has perplexed archaeologists and researchers for decades. The Abydos helicopter relief is part of a larger series of intricate carvings found in the temple of Seti I, one of Egypt's greatest pharaohs, who ruled during the 19th dynasty around 1300 BC. The relief in question depicts a series of strange and unfamiliar objects, many of which appear to resemble modern-day aircraft, including a helicopter, a plane, and what seems to be a submarine. These representations are unlike any known symbols from the ancient Egyptian world and have ignited debates among scholars, mystics, and fringe theorists alike. What are we looking at? And why do these seemingly out-of-place objects appear in a structure that is over 3,000 years old? At first glance, the images appear to be simple carvings, nothing out of the ordinary. However, when examined more closely, the shapes and lines that form these objects appear to bear a striking resemblance to modern machines. the object most frequently cited is the helicopter. The intricate design of the object features a rotor-like structure on top, with a body that is unmistakably similar to a modern helicopter. Nearby, there's another carving that some believe shows a plane, complete with wings and a tail, while another figure seems to depict a submarine, its cylindrical body and appendages appearing far too advanced for the time in which they were carved. The initial reaction from mainstream scholars has been skepticism. The prevailing explanation suggests that these images are merely a result of natural weathering and erosion of the stone, causing the original symbols to become distorted over time. Others argue that the carvings might represent some form of symbolic or metaphorical representation, a stylized vision of the world that ancient Egyptians could have conceived in their unique understanding of the cosmos. However, this explanation has done little to quell the curiosity and the growing number of people who see these images as something far more extraordinary. Could these carvings be the result of a misunderstood or misinterpreted artistic expression? Could the helicopter and other similar shapes be representations of some kind of religious or divine imagery, using abstract forms to depict supernatural beings or vehicles that carried the gods across the heavens? Ancient Egyptians were known to imbue their art with symbolism, often representing gods and celestial phenomena in ways that were not immediately recognizable to outsiders or future generations. The ancient Egyptians certainly had a rich mythology that involved otherworldly creatures. But could their depictions of divine power have been misinterpreted centuries later as modern technology? Alternatively, some researchers have suggested that these objects are not simply artistic representations, but rather artifacts left behind by some form of advanced knowledge, perhaps even visitors from the future, or ancient peoples with access to technologies that have since been lost to time. This theory, though speculative, has captured the imagination of many, particularly those interested in the idea of ancient astronauts or extraterrestrial influence on early civilizations. Could the ancient Egyptians have had knowledge of technology far beyond their time, or was there some form of contact between civilizations separated by millennia? The debate over the Abydos helicopter relief has intensified over the years, especially with the rise of alternative theories about ancient civilizations. Could the reliefs be proof that the people of ancient Egypt had access to advanced technologies that were later lost? Some proponents of the ancient astronaut theory suggest that extraterrestrial visitors may have brought such knowledge to Earth, leaving behind cryptic symbols and artifacts for later generations to find. While this theory remains firmly on the fringe, it continues to captivate the imagination of those who see ancient monuments and artifacts as evidence of lost or hidden technologies. Another possibility is that these images could represent a form of collective imagination. Perhaps the symbols carved into the walls of Seti I's temple were meant to convey not physical reality, but the ancient Egyptians' conceptual understanding of the universe and its vast, mysterious forces. The rotors of a helicopter, the wings of a plane. Could these be metaphors, symbolic representations of divine motion or the passage of time, rather than literal depictions of machines? Given the rich iconography of ancient Egyptian art, it is possible that these helicopter and plane figures were simply part of a larger, highly symbolic narrative. After all, the ancient Egyptians were known to integrate complex symbolism into their art, often representing the gods as flying across the sky in boats, riding across the heavens on chariots, or even transforming into birds. Could these strange figures simply be part of the same symbolic tradition, misinterpreted by modern eyes? The Abydos helicopter relief also raises the question of whether ancient cultures were far more advanced than we give them credit for. The Egyptian civilization was known for its monumental achievements in architecture, astronomy, and engineering. From the Great Pyramid of Giza to the construction of massive temples and tombs, the Egyptians demonstrated an extraordinary understanding of geometry and precision. Could these carvings represent a lost knowledge or an early understanding of technologies that were far ahead of their time, perhaps even in the realms of flight or underwater exploration? In a broader context, the reliefs fit into a long-standing debate about the capabilities of ancient cultures. How much knowledge did ancient civilizations possess that has been lost to time? How advanced were the Egyptians really in comparison to the more familiar civilizations of the ancient world, like the Mesopotamians or the Indus Valley peoples? Could these symbols reflect some form of lost or forgotten technology that, in its time, was as revolutionary as the modern inventions we take for granted today? As we ponder the Abydos helicopter relief, we are left with more questions than answers. What did these strange images mean to the ancient Egyptians? Were they the result of a misunderstood artistic tradition, a religious or symbolic representation, or something far more extraordinary? The mystery of these carvings continues to intrigue and perplex, as we are left to wonder whether we are looking at a glimpse of a lost history, a misunderstood artifact, or perhaps a signpost pointing to a far more complex and advanced civilization than we have ever imagined. The truth may be lost to time, but the Abydos helicopter relief remains a tantalizing enigma, inviting us to continue our exploration of the past and to question how much of our understanding of ancient civilizations is still incomplete. What else, hidden in the ruins of ancient temples and forgotten tombs, might we uncover that challenges everything we thought we knew about the history of human achievement? Flying objects could have been representations of mythological birds or creatures, perhaps tied to the Tolima people's beliefs about the cosmos or the afterlife. The Tolima culture was deeply spiritual, and the region was home to numerous ceremonial sites and burial mounds. It's possible that the flying objects were symbolic representations of the divine, created as offerings or symbols of ascension, flight, or transformation. Birds, in particular, were significant in many ancient cultures as symbols of the soul's journey to the heavens. The Tolima gold flying objects might simply reflect this symbolism, capturing the human fascination with the sky and the divine forces that were believed to reside there. Yet, the level of sophistication in the crafting of these objects raises another possibility. Could these golden figures be more than just symbolic representations? Could they be models of actual flying machines, designed as prototypes or even functional objects, long lost to history? This theory suggests that the Tolima gold flying objects may represent an ancient understanding of flight, one that was either forgotten or deliberately hidden from later generations. If this is the case, what happened to the knowledge that could have led to such remarkable technological achievements? Did it vanish with the Tolima civilization, or was it suppressed, lost, or destroyed by subsequent conquerors? Interestingly, the Tolima gold flying objects are not the only ancient artifacts that have raised questions about early knowledge of flight. Similar discoveries have been made in other parts of the world, such as the mysterious Saqqara bird from Egypt and the so-called Chachapoya bird from Peru. These artifacts, often bird-shaped or insect-like, bear a striking resemblance to modern aircraft, prompting some to speculate that ancient cultures may have had a far more advanced understanding of aerodynamics than previously believed. Could the Tolima gold flying objects represent an early, forgotten attempt to understand and mimic flight? Or are they simply the products of a culture's rich symbolism, conveying ideas of ascension and the divine? The mystery surrounding these golden relics continues to captivate archaeologists, historians, and curious minds alike. What do these flying objects really mean, and what does their existence tell us about the ancient peoples who crafted them? As we reflect on the Tolima gold flying objects, we are reminded of how much of ancient history remains hidden from us. What technologies, knowledge, and ideas were lost to time, and what remains to be uncovered in the depths of the earth. The Tolima gold flying objects are a vivid reminder that, while we may think we understand the ancient past, there may still be much more to discover, more mysteries waiting to be solved? Could the answers lie in the sky, where ancient civilizations once dreamed of flight? Or are we simply scratching the surface of a much deeper enigma that remains hidden from view? To such advanced technology. The idea of ancient civilizations possessing flying machines is often relegated to the realm of fringe theories, most notably those associated with ancient astronaut speculation. These theories suggest that extraterrestrial visitors may have played a role in advancing human knowledge or technology, leaving behind clues in the form of objects like the Tolima gold flying objects. While there is no definitive proof of such a connection, the extraordinary precision of these golden relics continues to fuel the imagination of those who speculate about ancient technologies far beyond their time. More grounded explanations suggest that the Tolima gold flying objects could have been representations of mythological birds or creatures, perhaps tied to the Tolima people's beliefs about the cosmos or the afterlife. The Tolima culture was deeply spiritual, and the region was home to numerous ceremonial sites and burial mounds. It's possible that the flying objects were symbolic representations of the divine, created as offerings or symbols of ascension, flight, or transformation. Birds, in particular, were significant in many ancient cultures as symbols of the soul's journey to the heavens. The Tolima gold flying objects might simply reflect this symbolism, capturing the human fascination with the sky and the divine forces that were believed to reside there. Yet, the level of sophistication in the crafting of these objects raises another possibility. Could these golden figures be more than just symbolic representations? Could they be models of actual flying machines, designed as prototypes or even functional objects long lost to history? This theory suggests that the Tolima gold flying objects may represent an ancient understanding of flight, one that was either forgotten or deliberately hidden from later generations. If this is the case, what happened to the knowledge that could have led to such remarkable technological achievements? Did it vanish with the Tolima civilization, or was it suppressed, lost, or destroyed by subsequent conquerors? Interestingly, the Tolima gold flying objects are not the only ancient artifacts that have raised questions about early knowledge of flight. Similar discoveries have been made in other parts of the world, such as the mysterious Saqqara bird from Egypt and the so-called Chachapoya bird from Peru. These artifacts, often bird-shaped or insect-like, bear a striking resemblance to modern aircraft, prompting some to speculate that ancient cultures may have had a far more advanced understanding of aerodynamics than previously believed. Could the Tolima gold flying objects represent an early forgotten attempt to understand and mimic flight? Or are they simply the products of a culture's rich symbolism, conveying ideas of ascension and the divine? The mystery surrounding these golden relics continues to captivate archaeologists, historians, and curious minds alike. What do these flying objects really mean, and what does their existence tell us about the ancient peoples who crafted them? As we reflect on the Tolima gold flying objects, we are reminded of how much of ancient history remains hidden from us. What technologies, knowledge, and ideas were lost to time, and what remains to be uncovered in the depths of the earth. The Tolima gold flying objects are a vivid reminder that, while we may think we understand the ancient past, there may still be much more to discover, more mysteries waiting to be solved. Could the answers lie in the sky, where ancient civilizations once dreamed of flight? Or are we simply scratching the surface of a much deeper enigma that remains hidden from view? As we journey through the mists of ancient history, we find ourselves once again drawn to the rich and enigmatic cultures of South America. In the heart of Colombia, nestled within the verdant valleys of the Tolima region, a discovery has left archaeologists and historians intrigued, baffled, and even somewhat unnerved: the Tolima gold flying objects. These golden relics, dating back to the pre-Columbian era, have the distinct shape of small, intricately crafted flying creatures, objects that bear an uncanny resemblance to modern depictions of airplanes, helicopters, and other airborne vehicles. Their appearance is so strikingly advanced that they raise fundamental questions about the technological capabilities of ancient civilizations. The Tolima gold flying objects were discovered in 1969, when local farmers unearthed a series of gold artifacts in the Tolima region, located in the central Andes of Colombia. These artifacts were buried deep in the ground, seemingly hidden for centuries, perhaps even millennia. The most remarkable of the items found were a series of small gold-plated figures, some of which resembled birds or insect-like creatures, while others took on more abstract forms. However, what immediately caught the eye of those who examined them were the objects that appeared to resemble modern flying machines. Crafted from high-quality gold, these objects are astonishingly detailed. Some of the pieces depict intricate, winged figures, while others take on more streamlined forms, with body structures that closely resemble the fuselage of modern airplanes or the rotor systems of helicopters. The similarity between these ancient gold artifacts and modern flying machines is uncanny. While it is difficult to determine the exact purpose of these objects, there is no denying the precision and artistic sophistication required to create such detailed representations. The question then arises: how could the ancient people of Tolima, with no known access to advanced technology or tools, have created such objects? At first, mainstream explanations offered by archaeologists suggested that these objects were simply symbolic representations, crafted as part of religious rituals or to symbolize flight in a metaphysical sense. The ancient Tolima culture, like many others, was deeply connected to the natural world, and many of their artifacts depicted animals, birds, and other creatures that played significant roles in their mythology and cosmology. These flying objects could have been symbolic representations of the heavens or the gods, images that reflected the human fascination with flight and the spiritual journey to the divine. Yet, as researchers studied the Tolima gold flying objects in greater detail, a more puzzling possibility emerged. Some theorists began to question whether these objects were mere representations at all. Could they be models of actual flying machines, crafted with such astonishing detail that they suggest a knowledge of flight centuries before humanity is believed to have achieved it? Were the ancient Tolima people, or some other unknown civilization, capable of flight, or at least of creating working models that resembled modern aircraft? The discovery raised unsettling questions about the true extent of ancient technological knowledge, leading some to propose that ancient civilizations may have possessed technologies that have long been lost to history. This hypothesis, that the Tolima gold flying objects could represent actual, functional flying machines, stems from their intricate designs. The objects, when examined closely, seem to contain elements that are remarkably similar to modern concepts of aerodynamics. For example, some of the flying objects have streamlined bodies and wings that resemble those of an airplane or a helicopter. The curves and proportions of these artifacts seem too precise to have been created purely for artistic or symbolic purposes. Some even argue that the shape of the wings appears to suggest an understanding of flight dynamics, something that ancient cultures, particularly in the Andes, were not traditionally credited with. Of course, this theory remains highly speculative, as there is no concrete evidence to suggest that the Tolima people, or any other pre-Columbian civilization, had access to such advanced technology. The idea of ancient civilizations possessing flying machines is often relegated to the realm of fringe theories, most notably those associated with ancient astronaut speculation. These theories suggest that extraterrestrial visitors may have played a role in advancing human knowledge or technology, leaving behind clues in the form of objects like the Tolima gold flying objects. While there is no definitive proof of such a connection, the extraordinary precision of these golden relics continues to fuel the imagination of those who speculate about ancient technologies far beyond their time. More grounded explanations suggest that the Tolima gold Despite the lack of hard evidence to support this theory, it's difficult to ignore the striking resemblance between the Quimbaya flying artifact and modern aircraft. Some researchers have even pointed out that the object's design could have been based on a sophisticated understanding of flight principles that ancient cultures could have gleaned through observation, experimentation, or even interaction with advanced civilizations. Whether that means extraterrestrial influence or simply the advanced ingenuity of the Quimbaya people is up for debate. Another theory posits that these gold artifacts might not represent flight at all, but rather serve as representations of spiritual or cosmic journeys. In many ancient cultures, flight symbolized the soul's ascension to the heavens, the passage between the physical and spiritual worlds. It's possible that the Quimbaya flying artifact represents a metaphorical flight rather than a literal one. In this sense, the object could be seen as an emblem of transcendence, a reminder of the connection between the earthly realm and the divine. The Quimbaya people, like many other ancient cultures, may have used the symbolism of flight to express their beliefs in the afterlife or their spiritual connections to the gods. While these explanations offer some insight, they don't fully account for the extraordinary level of detail in the Quimbaya gold artifacts, nor the eerie resemblance to modern technology. The question remains, why did the Quimbaya people craft such intricate, aerodynamically precise objects, and what did they truly represent? Were these items purely symbolic, designed to reflect the culture's spiritual beliefs, or were they models of something much more advanced, perhaps even technologies lost to time? In reflecting on the Quimbaya gold artifacts, we are left with a sense of awe and curiosity. What do these golden objects reveal about the Quimbaya people and their understanding of the world around them? Were they simply artists, creating intricate symbols of nature and the divine? Or were they pioneers of knowledge that we have yet to fully comprehend? The mystery of the Quimbaya gold artifacts is far from solved, and as we continue to explore ancient discoveries, we are reminded that the past holds secrets that may never fully be uncovered. Secrets that challenge our assumptions and spark our imaginations, leaving us to wonder what knowledge has been lost to the ages, waiting to be rediscovered. As we continue to unravel the mysteries of ancient civilizations, we now turn our attention to one of the most haunting and enigmatic artifacts ever discovered, the Aztec death whistle. Found in the heart of Mesoamerica, these peculiar instruments offer a chilling glimpse into the cultural and religious practices of the Aztec civilization, a society known for its powerful military, complex rituals, and deep reverence for the forces of life and death. The Aztec death whistle is a small, intricately crafted artifact, typically made from ceramic. Its shape varies, but most examples bear a striking resemblance to human or animal skulls, with hollowed-out cavities and exaggerated facial features. The design is unmistakably macabre, and the whistle's function is as eerie as its appearance. When blown, the Aztec death whistle produces a sound unlike any other, a blood-curdling, high-pitched wail that can be heard from a distance, resembling the screams of the dying or the cries of the tormented. The sound it creates is so disturbing that it is said to be capable of sending a shiver down the spine of anyone who hears it. The Aztec death whistle was likely used during the Aztecs' most sacred rituals, especially those involving sacrifice. The Aztecs, like many ancient cultures, had a deep belief in the cyclical nature of life, death, and rebirth, and their religious ceremonies often involved offerings to appease the gods. Human sacrifice was a central part of these rites, and the death whistle was likely employed to accompany these events, adding an audible layer to the intense atmosphere of the ceremonies. The unsettling sound of the whistle would have amplified the emotional and spiritual gravity of the sacrifice, marking the moment when life was offered to the gods. While the exact purpose of the Aztec death whistle is still debated, many scholars agree that it played a role in the Aztecs' complex rituals surrounding death and the afterlife. Some researchers believe that the whistle's haunting sound symbolized the souls of those who had passed away, particularly those who had been sacrificed. In Aztec cosmology, death was not an end, but a transition, and the whistle may have been used to call upon the spirits of the dead, allowing them to cross over into the afterlife. In this sense, the whistle could have been seen as a spiritual conduit, linking the living and the dead in a tangible way. However, the Aztec death whistle also raises questions about the nature of the Aztec worldview and the significance of sound in their rituals. Why did the Aztecs choose such a disturbing, otherworldly sound to accompany their ceremonies? Was it purely symbolic, designed to create a sense of dread and reverence? Or did the sound of the whistle carry deeper spiritual significance? Some have even speculated that the death whistle may have been used to disorient or terrify the sacrificial victims themselves, heightening the intensity of the ritual and perhaps even signaling to the gods that the offering had been made. As with many ancient artifacts, the true purpose of the Aztec death whistle remains elusive, and theories about its use continue to evolve. Some believe that it was used in battle to invoke fear in the hearts of enemies, and perhaps even signal the beginning of a ritualized slaughter. Others suggest that the whistle was used in public ceremonies, marking significant moments in the Aztec calendar or reinforcing the power of the priestly class. The connection between sound and power is an ancient one, and the Aztec death whistle may have been a tool for both spiritual and political manipulation, designed to control the emotions and perceptions of those who witnessed its use. Yet, as much as we can surmise about the Aztec death whistle, there are still elements of its purpose that elude us. The exact role of the whistle in the larger context of Aztec society remains a mystery, as does the origin of the design. Did the whistle's creators intend to evoke fear, reverence, or something else entirely? Was it a purely ceremonial object, or was it also a tool of power, wielded by priests and rulers to influence the actions of others? The eerie, unsettling sound that the whistle produces continues to echo through history, urging us to consider the nature of ancient rituals and the ways in which sound, symbol, and power intersect in the lives of those who lived long before us. The Aztec death whistle also invites us to reflect on the role of death in ancient societies, particularly the ways in which it was integrated into the cultural fabric of daily life. For the Aztecs, death was not something to be feared, but a natural and necessary part of the cosmic order. The ritual of sacrifice, though brutal by modern standards, was seen as a way to maintain balance and ensure the favor of the gods. The death whistle, with its haunting cry, may have been a reminder of this delicate balance, a sonic representation of the constant cycle of life and death that defined the Aztec worldview. Moreover, the discovery of these whistles raises important questions about the material culture of the Aztecs. What does the precision and craftsmanship of the Aztec death whistle tell us about the artisans who created them? These whistles, though small, are meticulously designed, and their ability to produce such a chilling sound speaks to an understanding of acoustics and materials that we might not expect from a society so distant from our own. Were the Aztecs aware of the psychological impact of sound, using it as a tool to influence not just the spiritual realm, but the minds of those who heard it? Or was the whistle's unsettling sound simply a byproduct of its design, an unintended consequence of the desire to create an object that would honor the gods? As we stand before the Aztec death whistle, we are reminded of the complexities of ancient cultures, whose practices and beliefs often defy easy understanding. What did the Aztec death whistle truly symbolize? Was it a tool of terror, a spiritual instrument, or something else entirely? In the silence of the modern world, it is easy to forget the power that sound once held in shaping human experience. The Aztec death whistle calls us to listen, to hear the distant echoes of a world long gone, where death was as much a part of life as the rituals that accompanied it. What remains hidden in the sounds of the past, waiting to be uncovered by those willing to listen? And how much more of the ancient world can we truly understand if we continue to explore these mysterious artifacts, each one carrying with it the weight of untold stories and unanswered questions? As we continue our journey through the depths of ancient history, we find ourselves drawn to the lands that stretch across modern-day Ukraine, Romania, and Moldova, regions that were once home to the Cucuteni Trypillia culture, one of the most enigmatic and sophisticated civilizations of prehistoric Europe. Between approximately 5,500 and 2,750 BC, this culture thrived in the fertile plains of the Dniester and Dnieper river valleys. Though much of their achievements remain shrouded in mystery, a particular discovery has captured the imagination of archaeologists and historians alike: the Cucuteni Trypillia clay tokens. These small, unassuming objects, often made from fired clay, are among the most curious artifacts left behind by the Cucuteni Trypillia people. The tokens, which vary in size and shape, are typically found in large numbers at archaeological sites associated with this culture. They are often inscribed with geometric patterns, symbols, and sometimes even figures that appear to be abstract or stylized representations of animals. The significance of these tokens has been a subject of debate for years. What were they used for? Were they merely decorative, or did they serve a more practical or symbolic function? The more we examine them, the more we realize that these simple pieces of clay may hold the key to understanding an ancient system of communication, trade, or even spiritual practice. At first glance, the Cucuteni Trypillia clay tokens seem relatively simple. Made of clay, they were likely produced by hand, then fired to ensure durability. Many of the tokens are small and round, with some shaped like discs, others like cones, and a few even resembling small animal figurines. Each piece is unique, with various markings inscribed on their surfaces. Some of these markings appear to be geometric shapes, triangles, circles, and lines, while others may represent more abstract symbols, difficult to interpret with our modern understanding of language and art. The consistent presence of these symbols across multiple sites suggests that they were not mere decorations, but served a purposeful role in the culture of the Cucuteni Trypillia people. One theory proposed by scholars is that the clay tokens were used as a form of accounting or record-keeping. This would make sense given their widespread presence in the settlement sites, many of which were large and likely involved complex trade networks. The tokens could have been used as a way to tally goods, represent agricultural produce, or keep track of livestock. The geometric patterns and symbols might have functioned as early forms of numerals or codes, allowing the people to mark quantities or transactions in a time before the development of written language. In this regard, the Cucuteni Trypillia clay tokens would be an early form of accounting system, much like the tally sticks used by other ancient civilizations. However, the lack of any standardization in the symbols and the sheer variety of markings on the tokens complicates this theory. Unlike the standardized writing systems we are familiar with, these symbols appear to be personal or localized, rather than part of a unified script. This raises the intriguing possibility that the clay tokens were used for a decentralized system of communication, perhaps reflecting different community practices or even personal identification markers. Another possibility is that these tokens served a spiritual or ritualistic purpose. The Cucuteni Trypillia culture, with its intricate religious practices and strong connections to nature, may have used these clay tokens as offerings or as symbols of protection or fertility. The fact that many tokens are found in association with human figurines and other ritual objects suggests that they may have been tied to ceremonial practices. The abstract symbols, some of which resemble animal motifs, could have been part of a larger belief system that incorporated animals as totems or symbols of power. In some instances, the tokens are found near figurines of women, which could suggest a connection to fertility rituals or goddess worship. The presence of these objects in the homes or sacred spaces of the Cucuteni Trypillia people suggests that the tokens were not just mundane tools for daily life, but part of a larger, more complex spiritual and social framework. Could they have been used to mark important events, such as the birth of a child, the death of a loved one, or the changing of seasons? Were they used to communicate with the gods, or to mark the passage of time in a way that we cannot fully comprehend today? Despite the numerous theories, the exact function of the Cucuteni Trypillia clay tokens remains elusive. Some researchers suggest that they may have been used in trade as a form of currency, though there is no evidence to suggest that the tokens were exchanged for goods in the way we think of money today. Others have proposed that the tokens were purely symbolic, representing concepts of balance, harmony, or cosmological order. The sheer variety of shapes and symbols on the tokens points to a level of complexity that suggests they may have been used in multiple contexts, perhaps changing in meaning over time or depending on the region. One of the more fringe theories posits that the clay tokens could have been a form of proto-writing, an early precursor to the written language systems that would emerge later in Mesopotamia and Egypt. While there is no clear evidence to support this idea, the patterns and symbols found on the tokens do resemble some of the earliest forms of writing, such as cuneiform or hieroglyphs. If this theory holds any weight, it would suggest that the Cucuteni Trypillia people had an understanding of written communication long before the advent of formal written language in other parts of the world. This idea challenges our traditional understanding of the development of writing and calls into question the linearity of technological progress in ancient cultures. Yet, despite these compelling theories, the Cucuteni Trypillia clay tokens remain an enigma, with no definitive answers to their purpose. It is tempting to view them as early attempts at writing or accounting, but the absence of a consistent or easily recognizable script leaves us with more questions than answers. Were these tokens simply tools for daily life, or did they hold a deeper, more spiritual significance? Did they represent a system of communication, or mark important social or ceremonial events? Or were they symbols of something beyond the material world, representations of the forces of nature, the gods, or the cosmos itself? What is certain is that the Cucuteni Trypillia clay tokens provide us with a rare and tantalizing glimpse into a civilization that existed long before the written word. They remind us that even in the absence of formal writing, ancient people found ways to communicate, to symbolize, and to express their beliefs about the world around them. The mystery of these tokens invites us to look beyond the surface and ask deeper questions about the nature of ancient societies. What other forms of knowledge and understanding have been lost to time, hidden in plain sight, waiting to be rediscovered? What secrets do these small, humble objects hold, and what might they reveal about the complexities of ancient human culture? The Cucuteni Trypillia clay tokens remain an enigma, a silent reminder of the past, and a mystery that continues to beckon us toward deeper exploration. As we continue our exploration of ancient mysteries that have baffled historians and archaeologists alike, we arrive in the heart of the Roman Empire, a civilization renowned for its engineering marvels, military prowess, and intricate culture. But among the many artifacts that have survived from this vast empire, few are as puzzling and elusive as the Roman dodecahedron variants. These small, seemingly innocuous objects, crafted from bronze or stone, have been discovered across a wide range of Roman sites, from Britain to Germany, and even as far as Palestine. Despite their widespread presence, their purpose remains an enduring mystery. At first glance, the Roman dodecahedron appears simple enough, a 12-sided object, each face a pentagon. Some versions are hollow, others solid. The faces often feature small, circular holes of varying sizes. The size of these objects can vary as well, with some measuring just a few centimeters across, while others are larger, perhaps more ornamental than functional. The smoothness of their construction and the precision with which they were crafted suggests an advanced understanding of geometry, yet their exact purpose has eluded scholars for centuries. What is most intriguing about the Roman dodecahedron is its ubiquity in the archaeological record, yet the complete absence of any written record describing its function. Despite the vast wealth of Roman texts, works on architecture, engineering, medicine, and even magic, there is no mention of the dodecahedron. So what were these objects? Why were they so widely distributed across the empire, and what possible use could they have had? The most common theory among archaeologists is that the Roman dodecahedron was a kind of instrument for measuring or aligning, possibly used in the construction of Roman roads or fortifications. Some believe it could have served as a surveying tool, a kind of primitive compass or level used to measure angles, distances, or elevation. The circular holes, varying in size, might have been used to create different alignments based on the positioning of objects or the sun's rays. If this theory were correct, the dodecahedron would have functioned as a tool for ensuring the precise measurement and alignment of Roman architectural feats. Another popular theory suggests that the Roman dodecahedron could have been used as a form of dice or gaming device. Its symmetrical shape and the presence of holes on each face might indicate that it was used in a game of chance, perhaps by Roman soldiers or nobles. The varying sizes of the holes on each side could have served as a way of assigning different values or outcomes, similar to how modern dice are used in various board games. However, there is no clear evidence linking the dodecahedron to any known Roman game, and the absence of any similar items in Roman depictions of gaming casts doubt on this theory. Some fringe theories have taken the mystery of the Roman dodecahedron even further. For example, there are those who believe that the object might have had a religious or ritualistic purpose. Given its geometric complexity and symmetry, it's conceivable that the dodecahedron held some spiritual significance, serving as a talisman or a sacred object used in Roman rituals. The precision of its construction might suggest that it was designed for more than mere practicality. Instead, it could have been a symbolic object, representing the divine harmony of the universe. The theory that the Roman dodecahedron was used as an occult object, invoking cosmic or metaphysical principles, is not widely accepted, but remains an intriguing possibility. Another, more speculative theory links the Roman dodecahedron to astrology or astronomical measurements. The Romans, though not as advanced in astronomy as their Greek counterparts, were nonetheless deeply fascinated by the stars and celestial events. Could the dodecahedron have been used in some form of early astronomy, perhaps to calculate the positions of planets or stars, or to track lunar and solar cycles? The holes in the faces of the dodecahedron could theoretically have been aligned with celestial bodies in some way, though no concrete evidence has been found to support this idea. But perhaps the most tantalizing question surrounding the Roman dodecahedron is not what it was used for, but why it was made in the first place. The craftsmanship involved in creating these objects suggests a high degree of skill, and their wide distribution across the empire, spanning regions from Britain to the Balkans, points to the fact that they were not merely local curiosities, but something with a purpose that transcended a single community or region. Why go to the effort of crafting these symmetrical, geometrically complex objects if their use was not widely understood or essential? Could the Roman dodecahedron represent a lost technology, an object whose true function was so advanced or obscure that it became irrelevant or forgotten as the centuries passed? Might it have been part of a forgotten Roman tradition, a tool or artifact whose knowledge was lost with the fall of the empire? Alternatively, could the dodecahedron have been something more universal, a cultural object passed between civilizations, carrying with it ideas or practices that we still don't fully understand. In considering these questions, it becomes clear that the Roman dodecahedron is not just an isolated artifact, but a symbol of the gaps in our knowledge of ancient civilizations. While we can speculate about its use, the truth remains elusive, locked away in the forgotten corners of history. Each new theory adds another layer to the puzzle, yet none of them fully satisfy the mystery. The dodecahedron, with its precise geometry and enigmatic design, represents the kinds of knowledge and practices that have been lost to time. Knowledge that, even with all our modern advances, remains just out of reach. The discovery of the Roman dodecahedron calls into question how much of the ancient world we still don't understand. How many other artifacts, scattered across the ruins of ancient empires, hold secrets that have yet to be uncovered? How many other objects, like the dodecahedron, were once vital to the functioning of a society, only to be lost to history and left to intrigue and confuse future generations? As we peer into the past, we are reminded that there is still much we do not know, and perhaps much we may never understand. The Roman dodecahedron is not just a relic of an ancient civilization. It is a reminder of the mysteries that remain hidden in plain sight, waiting to be uncovered by those willing to look deeper. As we continue our journey through the corridors of time, we come across one of the most fascinating and controversial artifacts to emerge from the annals of ancient history, the Tulli Papyrus. Shrouded in mystery and steeped in uncertainty, this ancient manuscript has tantalized researchers, historians, and even conspiracy theorists for centuries. Hailing from the heart of Egypt, it has been called the most famous UFO document by some, while others regard it as a mere curiosity from the distant past, containing more myth than truth. Regardless of its ultimate interpretation, the Tulli Papyrus stands as a vivid reminder of how ancient texts can challenge our understanding of history and the world around us. The Tulli Papyrus itself is a fragmentary piece of writing, dating back to the reign of Pharaoh Thutmose III, who ruled Egypt during the 18th dynasty around 1500 BC. This was a time of great military conquests, monumental building projects, and profound cultural exchange. The papyrus, however, is not a royal decree or a religious text. Instead, it describes an unusual celestial event that occurred during Thutmose III's reign, an event that, to this day, remains baffling. The papyrus was first brought to light in the 1930s by an Italian historian named Giovanni Tulli, after he came across the ancient document in the archives of the Vatican Library. The document itself is written in hieratic, the cursive form of Egyptian hieroglyphs, and it contains a description of a strange phenomenon witnessed in the skies above Egypt. According to the papyrus, a circle of fire appeared in the sky, followed by a great and wonderful movement of fire in the sky. The text goes on to describe how these fiery apparitions hovered over Egypt for several days, burning the sky and bringing confusion to the land. The description is vague and incomplete, as the papyrus is fragmentary. However, its most striking feature is the ambiguous reference to a celestial event that cannot easily be explained by modern science. The text speaks of fire and movement in the sky, but what exactly these phenomena were remains unclear. The ambiguous phrasing has led some to propose that the Tulli Papyrus describes an encounter with extraterrestrial craft, an idea that has captivated the imagination of those interested in the ancient astronaut theory, which posits that advanced alien civilizations visited Earth in antiquity, influencing human development. In this context, the Tulli Papyrus is often cited as one of the earliest recorded encounters with UFOs. The description of fire in the sky and the great movement could be interpreted as the visual effects of something like a spacecraft, according to proponents of this theory. The phrase "burning the sky" is particularly intriguing, as it could be a metaphor for the intense, otherworldly light or energy associated with such an encounter. The confusion that followed, according to the text, could suggest the reaction of the people to this celestial anomaly. Perhaps they were fearful, bewildered, or awestruck by the sight. However, while this interpretation may seem compelling to those who support the idea of ancient extraterrestrial visitations, there are alternative, more grounded theories that attempt to explain the strange event. One possibility is that the Tulli Papyrus is describing a rare atmospheric phenomenon, such as a comet or meteor shower, which would have been a truly spectacular and unnerving sight in the skies of ancient Egypt. Ancient people, with their limited understanding of the natural world, might have interpreted such a sight as a divine or supernatural occurrence. The circle of fire could have been the fiery tail of a comet, while the great and wonderful movement could have been a series of meteorites streaking across the sky. Another possibility is that the event described in the papyrus was a solar phenomenon, such as a solar halo or a sundog, which occurs when ice crystals in the atmosphere refract sunlight in such a way that it creates strange, fiery patterns in the sky. These phenomena have been recorded throughout history, and their visual impact on ancient people would have been both awe-inspiring and mysterious. The references to fire and burning might simply reflect the way in which ancient Egyptians interpreted such natural wonders, attributing them to the gods or forces beyond human understanding. Yet even these explanations do not fully satisfy the mystery of the Tulli Papyrus. If the event was simply a meteor shower or atmospheric phenomenon, why would the papyrus mention the phenomenon in such dramatic terms, describing it as a great and wonderful event that caused confusion among the people? Why, if it were a common occurrence, would the papyrus make special note of it? The language and tone of the text suggest that the event was something extraordinary, something that set it apart from the usual natural phenomena observed by the ancient Egyptians. As with many ancient texts, the Tulli Papyrus leaves us with more questions than answers. Was it an account of an unusual but natural event, recorded in a way that reflected the limited understanding of the ancient Egyptians? Or was it a record of something truly extraordinary, something that defies conventional explanation and challenges our understanding of history? Could it be evidence of an ancient encounter with beings from beyond our world? If so, what does that say about the civilizations of the ancient world and their ability to interpret and record the unexplainable? Perhaps the greatest mystery of the Tulli Papyrus is the question of why it has remained so enigmatic. If it were a simple record of a natural event, why would it be preserved and passed down through generations of scribes with no clear explanation as to its meaning? Why would an event like this be given such significance in the historical record? Was it part of a larger tradition of recording celestial phenomena, or was it seen as something so rare and important that it merited preservation? The absence of any further context, either from Thutmose III's reign or from other Egyptian texts, leaves us to wonder what other stories might have been lost to history, stories of strange, unexplainable occurrences that were left to fade into obscurity. As we ponder the significance of the Tulli Papyrus, we are reminded of how easily history can become distorted, lost, or forgotten. The papyrus is one small fragment of a much larger story, one that we are still trying to piece together. What other ancient records, hidden in dusty archives or lost in the sands of time, might contain accounts of similar events? How many other mysteries, waiting to be uncovered, lie hidden within the ancient texts of long-lost civilizations? The Tulli Papyrus is just one example of how the past continues to speak to us in fragments, leaving us to interpret its meaning, wonder at its significance, and search for connections that may never be fully understood. In the end, the mystery of the Tulli Papyrus is not only about the event it describes, but also about the broader questions it raises. What are we missing in our understanding of ancient history, and what might still be hidden from view? The answers may be out there, waiting to be discovered, if we are willing to look beyond the obvious and into the unexplained. As we continue our journey through the labyrinth of ancient discoveries, we find ourselves in the dense jungles of Ecuador, a place where nature's untamed beauty holds secrets hidden beneath its thick canopy. It was here, in the remote region of La Maná, that one of the most perplexing and mysterious objects ever discovered was unearthed, a stone that has confounded archaeologists and researchers for decades. The object in question is the Maná Stone, an artifact whose origins and purpose remain a riddle that, despite years of investigation, has not been fully unraveled. The Maná Stone itself is a large, oval-shaped boulder, weighing several hundred kilograms, with carvings that appear to depict a series of strange, intricate images. It is not the size or the shape of the stone that makes it so fascinating, but the enigmatic designs etched into its surface. Symbols, figures, and patterns that seem to suggest a connection to something far older, or perhaps more advanced, than the surrounding cultures of the time. The stone's discovery in the La Maná region, near the Andes foothills, adds to its intrigue. This was a place once inhabited by the ancient Valdivia culture, an early pre-Columbian civilization, yet the symbols on the stone bear no clear resemblance to known Valdivian art or script. The carvings on the Maná Stone are remarkable not just for their unusual design, but also for the level of skill and precision with which they were made. Some of the most prominent symbols appear to represent animals, figures, and perhaps even celestial bodies, subjects common to many ancient cultures. However, what makes these carvings so perplexing is their complexity and their apparent lack of connection to any known tradition or iconography of the region. The stone does not resemble anything from the Valdivia culture or from any other known pre-Columbian group in the area. This has led some to ask, who made this stone and why? One of the most striking aspects of the Maná Stone is its portrayal of what appear to be humanoid figures, some of which seem to be dressed in elaborate attire or armor. This has raised the possibility that the stone might depict some kind of ritual or historical event, possibly linked to a forgotten civilization or a people with knowledge that was ahead of their time. The humanoid figures could represent gods or rulers, figures of cultural or religious significance. Some theorists have suggested that the figures might represent ancient extraterrestrials, pointing to their seemingly otherworldly appearance, with their elongated limbs and strange headdresses. This theory, while speculative, is not entirely out of place within the wider framework of the ancient astronaut hypothesis, which posits that ancient peoples were visited by extraterrestrial beings who imparted advanced knowledge and technologies. But even without invoking extraterrestrial theories, the question remains: what was the purpose of the Maná Stone? Was it a form of ancient communication, an object designed to pass down knowledge from generation to generation? Some have proposed that the stone could have been a map of sorts, depicting regions or territories of importance to the civilization that created it. The precise arrangement of symbols and figures could have been a way to record important events, directions, or genealogies, all encoded within the stone's carvings. Others have speculated that the Maná Stone might have been a ritual object, perhaps used in religious ceremonies or even as a form of tribute to the gods. The repeated patterns and symmetrical designs may indicate that it had a ceremonial or symbolic significance, aligning with the traditions of many ancient cultures that believed in the power of symbols to influence the physical and spiritual realms. If this was the case, it raises the question: what was the intended message or meaning behind the carvings? Could the stone have been a form of astronomical alignment, used to track celestial movements or seasons, much like other ancient monuments such as the Stonehenge or the Machu Picchu? Despite the wide range of theories, one thing is clear: the Maná Stone is not just another mysterious artifact. It is an object that challenges our understanding of ancient cultures and their capabilities. Its existence forces us to confront the possibility that there are pieces of human history that have been lost, forgotten, or misinterpreted, perhaps deliberately. The stone's sophisticated carving suggests a culture that was capable of remarkable artistic and technological achievements, but the lack of context makes it impossible to say for certain what those achievements were, or how they fit into the broader scope of ancient history. In recent years, some have questioned the authenticity of the Maná Stone, suggesting that it might be a modern creation, made to look ancient in order to capture the imagination of those searching for lost civilizations. But the stone's age, carbon dating, and the fact that it was found buried deep in the earth, away from modern settlement, lend credibility to its origins as an ancient artifact. Still, the uncertainty remains. Could the stone have been a forgery, crafted by someone attempting to imitate ancient styles and symbols? Or was it a genuine relic of a lost civilization, one whose story has yet to be told? The absence of direct historical evidence makes the Maná Stone all the more perplexing. No known texts or inscriptions mention it, nor are there any similar objects that might provide context or clarification. It is as if the stone has fallen through the cracks of history, its purpose lost to the ages. Its discovery in the Maná region, an area not widely known for its ancient monumental art, only deepens the mystery. As we reflect on the Maná Stone, we are confronted with an essential question. How many more artifacts like this remain hidden in the earth, waiting to be discovered? How much of our past has been lost to time, and how many pieces of history are still waiting for the right person to uncover them and bring them back into the light? The stone is a haunting reminder that, even in our modern age, there are still places and objects that hold secrets, their true meaning slipping through the fingers of those who seek to understand them. The Maná Stone serves as a tangible link to an ancient world, one that we can only glimpse through fragments like this. Its origins, purpose, and creators remain as elusive as the symbols etched into its surface. Perhaps in time, more discoveries will shed light on its mystery, or perhaps it will remain an enigma, a silent witness to a forgotten age. The answers may be out there, waiting to be uncovered, or perhaps some questions about our ancient past are destined to remain unanswered forever. For now, the Maná Stone continues to challenge our assumptions and invite us to look deeper into the shadowy corners of history where the past and the unknown converge. As we continue our exploration of the world's most perplexing ancient sites, we arrive at the awe-inspiring Baalbek in the Bekaa Valley of Lebanon. This ancient site, steeped in history, is home to some of the largest stone blocks ever quarried, including the legendary Trilithon, 3 colossal stones that have long captivated the imaginations of archaeologists and visitors alike. These stones, some weighing over 800 tons, stand as silent witnesses to a civilization that, even in its most grandiose form, remains shrouded in mystery. But the mystery of Baalbek does not end with the Trilithon itself. The quarry from which these massive blocks were cut is equally enigmatic. Scattered across the quarry floor, among unfinished stones still embedded in the bedrock, are a series of strange marks, etched deeply into the stone, their shapes and significance remaining as elusive as the origins of the site itself. These Baalbek quarry marks, as they are known, have long intrigued scholars, offering more questions than answers. The quarry is vast, a sprawling landscape of stone, where massive blocks in various stages of cutting sit abandoned and half-formed, as though the workers simply disappeared. The Trilithon stones, too large and heavy to have been moved using any conventional means, still lie in place, untouched by time. But it is the markings on the stones, precise, geometric symbols carved into the bedrock, that continue to perplex those who study them. These carvings are found across the quarry, and they vary in form and size. Some are simple geometric shapes, rectangles, squares, and circles, while others are more complex, resembling intricate symbols or abstract patterns. At first glance, these quarry marks might seem like nothing more than practical notations, tools for workers to track the stone's placement or the stages of their carving. And indeed, some scholars have suggested that these marks were functional, simple indicators of the stone's intended use or placement in the larger construction project. Perhaps they were signatures or labels left by the stonemasons who worked in the quarry, a form of communication to coordinate the immense task at hand. But there is something distinctly unusual about these marks. Their precision and complexity suggest a level of sophistication that goes beyond simple notation. In fact, some of the markings bear resemblance to astronomical or astrological symbols, leading some researchers to speculate that these marks could be linked to celestial alignments, religious rituals, or even hidden codes. If the people who worked at Baalbek were indeed attuned to the movements of the stars and planets, could these marks have served as a way to align the stones with celestial bodies, imbuing the site with cosmic significance? Others have posited that these symbols could be a form of sacred geometry, a practice known to ancient cultures for its connection to the divine and the natural world. The idea of using geometry to shape not only physical space but also spiritual meaning is not new. From the Egyptians to the Greeks, many ancient civilizations understood the profound relationship between numbers, shapes, and the cosmos. Could the Baalbek quarry marks be part of a much larger system of sacred geometry, meant to channel energy or align the site with cosmic forces? Were these marks intended to ensure that the stones, once placed, would resonate with the natural or supernatural world in ways we are only beginning to understand? But if the marks were not simply utilitarian or symbolic, could they represent something even more enigmatic? An unknown language, a lost form of writing or communication? Some have proposed that these symbols may be the remnants of an ancient script, one that has not yet been deciphered. Given that Baalbek is a site that spans multiple civilizations, from the Phoenicians to the Romans, it is possible that these markings represent a forgotten language, a cryptic code whose meaning was known only to the builders themselves. This theory finds some support in the fact that the Trilithon stones at Baalbek are believed to predate Roman involvement in the site by centuries, possibly millennia. If the Trilithon stones were originally cut and shaped by an earlier civilization, one far older than the Romans, then it stands to reason that the quarry marks could be evidence of a forgotten culture whose language, religion, and customs have been lost to time. Was this ancient society deeply connected to the stars, the earth, or some other form of higher knowledge? Could the marks left behind in the quarry be a clue to their worldview, one that has been obscured by the layers of history? The weight of these questions grows heavier as we consider the sheer scale of the stones themselves. Moving and positioning the Trilithon blocks with their staggering weight would have been a feat beyond the capabilities of most ancient cultures. Even the Romans, renowned for their engineering prowess, are believed to have struggled with these massive stones, and there is no definitive explanation as to how they were transported. Some have suggested that the quarry marks are linked to the technologies, techniques, or even tools used to move and manipulate these giant stones. Could these marks represent a lost method of construction, one so advanced that it has been forgotten by all but the builders themselves? And then there is the increasingly popular, though highly speculative, theory that the markings could be evidence of extraterrestrial involvement. The idea that ancient civilizations had contact with beings from other worlds has been proposed by some fringe theorists, especially in connection with sites like Baalbek, which seem to defy conventional explanations. If such contact occurred, could these quarry marks be some form of communication, either between the builders and these otherworldly beings, or a method to interact with cosmic forces beyond our understanding? Though unsupported by mainstream scholarship, the theory offers a tantalizing possibility that these marks might be part of an alien code, left behind as part of an otherworldly intervention in the construction of one of the most mysterious sites on Earth. But for now, the true meaning of the Baalbek quarry marks remains elusive. They defy easy interpretation and continue to resist all attempts to categorize them into the familiar frameworks of known history. Could they be ancient symbols, religious icons, or astronomical notations? Or are they part of something much deeper, a lost system of knowledge or communication from a forgotten civilization? The Baalbek quarry marks stand as a silent testament to a bygone era, one whose mysteries have yet to be unraveled. As we examine the site and the stone blocks that still bear these strange carvings, we are reminded of how much of our history remains hidden, locked away beneath layers of time. Some mysteries, it seems, may be destined to remain unsolved. But the Baalbek quarry marks continue to beckon, urging us to look deeper, to search for clues, and to wonder what might still be hidden within the stones and the earth, waiting for the right moment, the right discovery, to reveal its secrets. As we continue our journey through some of the most fascinating and enigmatic ancient discoveries, we turn our attention to a fragment that holds the potential to rewrite the history of ancient Egypt itself. The Saqqara King's List fragment. The fragment, a limestone tablet that has captured the imagination of archaeologists and historians for over a century, was discovered in the ruins of the Step Pyramid complex at Saqqara, one of the most significant archaeological sites in Egypt. This site, associated with the Old Kingdom and the reign of Djoser, around 2670 BC, has long been a treasure trove for historians seeking to understand the early dynastic periods of Egypt. Yet, the King's List fragment is something of an anomaly. What makes the Saqqara King's List fragment so intriguing is not just its content, but the gaps in the historical narrative it potentially fills. Unlike other royal lists that have been found in various parts of Egypt, this one offers something new. A glimpse into a much older and more complex period of Egyptian history, one that may contain surprises we have yet to fully comprehend. The tablet, though only a small fragment, contains the names of kings who ruled long before the reign of Djoser, including rulers of dynasties that, up until the discovery of this piece, were little more than mythical figures. The fragment lists the names of kings who reigned in Egypt's first dynasty, second dynasty, and possibly even earlier, but there are significant anomalies. Some names on the list appear to align with those found in other, later records, yet others are entirely unknown, rulers whose existence was not recorded elsewhere, and whose legacies had been forgotten by history. When the Saqqara King's List fragment was first uncovered in the early 19th century, it caused a stir among Egyptologists. Many saw it as evidence that Egyptian history, long thought to be a linear progression of dynasties, might be far more complex than previously imagined. This fragment suggested that there could have been a much earlier group of rulers, whose reigns were overshadowed by the later pharaohs whose names are familiar to us today, like Ramesses or Cleopatra. Were these early kings truly forgotten, or was their legacy deliberately obscured? The fragment offers tantalizing clues, but like so many aspects of ancient history, it raises more questions than it answers. One of the most curious aspects of this list is the fact that it does not fully align with the conventional timeline of Egypt's pharaonic history. According to the fragment, the reigns of certain kings appear to overlap with one another in a way that contradicts the traditional chronology of Egyptian dynasties. Some scholars have posited that this could be a sign of political consolidation, with multiple kings ruling simultaneously across different regions. Or it could suggest the existence of a parallel history, one that was never fully recorded in the more well-known lists of kings. Moreover, there are no clear explanations for the seemingly sudden appearance of these early rulers. Why did they emerge at this specific point in Egypt's history? Was there a dramatic shift in the political or cultural landscape that led to the rise of these previously unknown dynasties? And if so, What caused the subsequent erasure of their names from official records? Some have suggested that the Saqqara kings list was part of a larger effort to consolidate power under the more recognizable dynasties, a method of historical editing that may have deliberately omitted certain rulers to create a more streamlined and coherent narrative of Egypt's rise to power. This fragment also raises questions about the nature of Egypt's early records. The list was found in a tomb that belonged to a high-ranking official, which suggests that it might have had ceremonial or political significance. Was this list simply a record of the past, or did it serve a larger purpose in the maintenance of political power? Some researchers have speculated that it was created as a way to legitimize the claims of certain rulers, perhaps by invoking the names of long-dead kings to reinforce their own authority. Could this be a form of propaganda in ancient Egypt, designed to bolster the reputation of the ruling elite? Interestingly, while many of the names on the fragment are familiar to those who study ancient Egypt, others are completely unknown, kings whose names have not appeared in any other records or inscriptions. The appearance of these lost kings on the list has prompted some to suggest that there could have been entire dynasties that have simply vanished from history. How could these kings have been erased from the historical record, and why? Was this the result of war, cultural upheaval, or something even more dramatic? And could there be other similar lists hidden across Egypt, containing even more names of forgotten rulers? The mystery deepens when we consider the historical context in which this list was created. Egypt's early dynastic period was a time of significant change. There were wars between the kingdoms of Upper and Lower Egypt, shifts in religious practices, and changes in the structure of the pharaoh's rule. In this chaotic environment, could the Saqqara kings list be an attempt to document and memorialize a period of turmoil? Or perhaps it was a reaction to the consolidation of power under the more famous dynasties, an effort to ensure that the names of the rulers from this earlier era were not forgotten. Some fringe theories suggest that the existence of these unknown kings on the list may not be entirely conventional. Could the list be pointing to the existence of a much older civilization, one that predated even the dynastic Egyptians? This hypothesis draws on the idea that Egypt's history is far older than we currently acknowledge, with early rulers who may have had contact with cultures from outside the Nile Valley. If this is the case, the Saqqara Kings list fragment could be one of the few surviving traces of an earlier world, a lost history of Egypt and its role in the broader context of the ancient world. Additionally, there are those who speculate that this fragment might offer a glimpse into the mythic nature of ancient Egyptian kingship. Were these rulers simply figures of legend? And if so, why were they immortalized in this list, only to be forgotten by later generations? Could the Saqqara Kings list fragment be part of an even larger narrative of divine kingship, meant to show the gods' direct involvement in the early governance of Egypt? The intertwining of mythology and history in ancient Egypt is well documented, and perhaps this list is yet another example of how the boundaries between the two were often blurred. As we study the Saqqara Kings list fragment, we are confronted with a series of unresolved questions that challenge our understanding of Egypt's early history. How much of what we know about Egypt's first rulers is truly accurate, and how much of it has been lost to time? Could this fragment be the key to uncovering a hidden chapter of Egypt's past, one that has been obscured by centuries of political change, destruction, and reinterpretation? The Saqqara Kings list fragment is just one piece of a much larger puzzle, one that spans thousands of years, contains countless names, and holds secrets that have yet to be fully revealed. The fragment's mysterious entries suggest that we have only scratched the surface of Egypt's ancient history. And as with many of the world's greatest mysteries, the more we uncover, the more we realize how little we truly know. What other ancient records remain hidden beneath the sands of time, waiting to be discovered? What other names, lost to history, are yet to be found? And what secrets might they reveal about the civilizations that once thrived along the banks of the Nile? As we continue our exploration of ancient discoveries that continue to defy explanation, we turn to a peculiar and enigmatic artifact that has stirred both curiosity and skepticism in equal measure: the Coso Artifact. Unearthed in 1961, deep in the desert of California, this seemingly unremarkable object would go on to become a subject of intense debate, its true nature and origin challenging everything we think we know about technology and history. The artifact was discovered within a geode, a naturally occurring hollow rock formation. When first cracked open, the inside revealed a strange, intricately crafted object that appeared entirely out of place for the time period it was assumed to come from. At first glance, it resembled a small, rough stone, but closer inspection revealed something far more extraordinary: a spark plug. Yes, a spark plug, an essential component in internal combustion engines, a technology that was, at the time of its discovery, not invented until well into the 20th century. But there it was, inside the ancient geode, lying beneath millions of years of geological strata. How could a modern mechanical component like a spark plug end up in a rock formation thought to be over 500,000 years old? And what could it possibly mean for our understanding of ancient technology, or perhaps the very fabric of time itself? The Coso Artifact immediately caught the attention of geologists, archaeologists, and researchers from all over the world. Some were quick to dismiss it, offering logical explanations for the object's origins. Perhaps the spark plug had been deposited into the geode relatively recently, they suggested. Maybe someone had dropped it into the rock formation, and over time the geode had formed around it, giving the appearance of an ancient artifact when, in fact, it was a modern object trapped in a natural formation. However, this theory fails to account for several crucial details. First, the artifact was found at a depth in the geode that would make it unlikely for someone to have dropped it in there by chance, especially considering the age of the geode itself. Furthermore, studies of the object's condition have shown it to be remarkably well preserved, with no signs of modern wear or the sort of corrosion one would expect from an object that had been exposed to the elements for any significant length of time. The spark plug was not only encased in ancient stone, but appeared as though it had been placed there deliberately, perhaps by an entity with knowledge of advanced mechanical technology long before it was supposedly invented. So, if this artifact wasn't an accidental inclusion, then what was it? Was it possible that ancient civilizations possessed advanced technology that we, in our modern age, have not yet fully understood? Could this spark plug be evidence of a civilization far more advanced than we've ever given credit for, one that existed long before recorded history? To some, the Coso Artifact raises the tantalizing possibility that humanity, or perhaps other intelligent beings, might have been far more advanced in the distant past than we have previously imagined. Could there have been technological societies lost to time whose achievements were so far ahead of their era that they were wiped from history, their knowledge forever buried under the sands of time? Is the spark plug simply a remnant of a forgotten age, an artifact from a civilization whose technology we can only begin to fathom? Some fringe theories take this even further, suggesting that the Coso Artifact may be evidence of time travel, or at the very least, an indication that the boundaries between different eras of time might not be as fixed as we assume. Could it be that advanced technology somehow traveled through time, leaving behind traces of its existence? The idea that a modern object could end up in an ancient rock formation opens up the possibility that time itself might not be as linear as we believe. Could we be seeing evidence of something far stranger than just a technological anomaly? Perhaps a glimpse into a reality where time is fluid and objects can exist out of their proper chronological sequence. Despite its enigmatic nature, the Coso artifact is often cited as a prime example of the out-of-place artifact phenomenon, in which objects are found in geological contexts that suggest they are far older than they should be. From stone tools found in prehistoric strata to metal objects discovered in layers of rock thought to be millions of years old, these artifacts challenge our basic understanding of human history and technology. The Coso artifact stands out in this category because it is undeniably modern in appearance. There is no mistaking it for an ancient tool or ornament. The spark plug is an industrial object, a small yet intricate machine part that doesn't belong in a geological formation. Its discovery has led some to reconsider whether the accepted timeline of technological progress is accurate at all. There are alternative theories, however, that suggest the object might not be a modern spark plug after all. Some have speculated that it could have been a religious or ceremonial object, carved to resemble a spark plug. This idea would imply that the ancient civilization responsible for the geode's formation might have created symbolic representations of modern technology, though it would be a stretch to say they had the foresight to create a precise replica of a spark plug. Still, the presence of such an object in a ceremonial or religious context could offer an explanation, albeit one that still leaves us with more questions than answers. Another possible explanation is that the spark plug is not a mechanical component at all, but rather a piece of art or an ornamental object crafted by an ancient civilization with knowledge of metallurgy and sculpting techniques far more advanced than what we typically attribute to ancient cultures. The idea that such an object could have been made purely for aesthetic purposes, without any real functional use, is intriguing in its own right. Could the ancient people of this region have been influenced by forces we have yet to fully understand? Extraterrestrial contact, for example, or advanced knowledge passed down from an unknown source? As we consider the implications of the Coso artifact, one cannot help but wonder what else might be hidden in the world, waiting to be discovered. How many other objects from ancient times could challenge our assumptions about technology, culture, and human history? And how many more discoveries lie buried, waiting to be uncovered beneath the surface of the earth, within layers of rock and soil that hold secrets we have yet to decipher? For now, the Coso artifact remains a mystery, one that invites us to question the very foundations of our historical narrative and our understanding of technology. It stands as a testament to the complexity and depth of the ancient world, reminding us that there is still so much we do not know, and perhaps never will. What ancient knowledge remains lost to the ages? And could our understanding of time, civilization, and the very nature of human progress be completely transformed by a single, simple artifact? As the sands of time shift, perhaps more pieces of the puzzle will emerge, gradually filling in the gaps and unveiling a story that, for now, remains untold. The Coso artifact, with its perplexing presence in a geode that defies all conventional timelines, serves as a poignant reminder that the past is far from fully understood, and that the mysteries of the ancient world are far from being solved. In recent years, further analysis of the Coso artifact has led many mainstream researchers to favor a more grounded explanation. Detailed examinations suggest that the object closely resembles a champion spark plug manufactured in the 1920s, commonly used in early mining and agricultural equipment. According to this view, the surrounding material may not be a true geode formed over hundreds of thousands of years, but rather a concretion, mineral deposits that can form relatively quickly under the right environmental conditions. This interpretation offers a plausible geological explanation without invoking lost civilizations or disruptions in the timeline of human history. Nevertheless, the debate surrounding the Coso artifact persists, largely because the case highlights how easily assumptions can shape interpretations of unusual discoveries. Even if the artifact ultimately proves to be a misplaced modern object, Its story serves as a reminder of the importance of critical thinking, rigorous scientific testing, and openness to re-evaluating initial conclusions. History is filled with examples where early interpretations were later overturned, not by speculation, but by improved methods and deeper understanding. Ultimately, the fascination with the Coso Artifact may say as much about human curiosity as it does about the object itself. Our desire to uncover hidden truths, challenge established narratives, and imagine forgotten chapters of the past drives both scientific inquiry and speculative thought. Whether the artifact represents a simple geological misunderstanding or something far more extraordinary, it continues to inspire discussion, reminding us that mystery plays a vital role in expanding knowledge, and that the search for answers is often just as important as the answers themselves. As we continue our journey through the labyrinth of ancient discoveries, we encounter an enigmatic set of objects that have both captivated and perplexed the world for decades: the Ica Stones. These small, weathered stones, found in the desert regions of Peru, carry with them an air of mystery that challenges our understanding of history, culture, and even the origins of human civilization. The Ica Stones were first brought to light in the 1960s when a local farmer named Cesar Correa stumbled upon the stones while plowing his fields near the town of Ica, located in the arid region of southern Peru. What seemed to be ordinary stones at first glance soon revealed themselves to be extraordinary, etched with a series of intricate carvings. The markings, deeply engraved into the surface of the stones, depicted a wide range of images, some familiar, others entirely foreign. At the core of the carvings are depictions of prehistoric animals, many of which are long extinct, such as dinosaurs, alongside humans. Some stones show figures riding or interacting with the creatures in scenes that are difficult to reconcile with what we know of ancient history. For example, one stone portrays a pterodactyl, a flying reptile from the Mesozoic era, hovering above a group of humans. Another stone depicts a sauropod, a massive, long-necked dinosaur, being hunted by ancient humans, wielding weapons like spears and knives. These images suggest an improbable timeline where humans and dinosaurs coexisted, a scenario that is considered an impossibility by conventional scientific understanding. The Ica Stones' most extraordinary carvings, however, go beyond depictions of extinct creatures. The stones also showcase highly detailed representations of advanced technologies, technology that would seem far beyond the reach of ancient civilizations. Some stones bear depictions of surgical procedures, such as brain surgery, with highly skilled hands at work on human patients. Others show astronomical maps, or humans riding what appear to be flying machines, resembling modern depictions of aircraft. The presence of such advanced concepts, drawn onto stones estimated to be thousands of years old, raises immediate and uncomfortable questions. How could people from the distant past have possibly known of these technologies not invented until the 20th century? And what does it say about our assumptions regarding the capabilities of ancient civilizations? The most compelling mystery surrounding the Ica Stones is their origins. While the carvings seem to suggest an advanced, almost futuristic understanding of science and technology, the stones have been dismissed by many mainstream scholars as modern forgeries. Critics argue that the stones could have been intentionally created in recent times, perhaps as an elaborate hoax. Some researchers even suggest that the carvings were made with tools from the 20th century, such as chisels or abrasives, to deliberately deceive the public and perpetuate a myth about ancient advanced civilizations. But these explanations do not fully address the complexity of the stones. Despite the skepticism, the patina, the natural surface layer formed on the stones over time, appears to be authentic, matching the geological age of the stones they are carved into. Furthermore, the intricate carvings themselves seem to follow a level of precision and craftsmanship that would be difficult, if not impossible, to replicate using the tools of today. If the stones are forgeries, they would have required an advanced knowledge of ancient history and geological processes, not to mention the skill to replicate the appearance of ancient artifacts with such accuracy. Another argument against the forgery theory is the sheer number of Ica stones that have been discovered. Over 15,000 stones have been uncovered in the Ica Valley alone, many of which show a variety of distinct styles and carvings, some more detailed than others. For a hoax of such magnitude to be perpetuated, it would require an extraordinary level of effort and coordination, one that seems unlikely given the remote location and lack of widespread exposure. Furthermore, many of these stones have been found in ancient burial sites, their placement suggesting that they may indeed have been part of a much older, undocumented cultural practice. Could it be that these stones were created by an ancient civilization with a depth of knowledge far beyond what we believe possible? To answer this, we must look at the context in which the Ica stones were found. The region of Ica itself holds a rich and mysterious history. The Nazca lines, another famous enigma from Peru, lie not far from the Ica Valley, and they too continue to baffle scientists and archaeologists. The Nazca lines, which consist of massive geoglyphs etched into the desert floor, are best seen from the sky, suggesting an advanced understanding of geometry and the cosmos. Could these geoglyphs, along with the Ica stones, be remnants of a lost culture that possessed knowledge we have yet to fully comprehend? One intriguing theory that has been proposed is that the Ica stones are not merely relics of ancient humanity, but rather artifacts left by an extraterrestrial civilization. Given the advanced nature of the technologies depicted on the stones, proponents of this theory suggest that these images might be a form of contact with beings from beyond our world, beings who shared their knowledge of advanced technologies with the people of ancient Peru. The depictions of flying machines, for instance, could be seen as an echo of UFO sightings and abduction stories that continue to surface in modern times. Could it be that the knowledge and technologies we associate with the modern era were once known to ancient civilizations, but somehow lost over time, only to be rediscovered centuries later? The connection between the Ica stones and ancient astronauts has been a topic of fascination for many, with some believing that the stones are evidence of a past extraterrestrial presence. Supporters of this theory point to the vivid depictions of creatures like dinosaurs, as well as advanced technologies, which they argue may not have been part of the ancient human experience, but rather shared by a technologically superior civilization. This idea, though speculative, opens the door to more questions about the nature of our past and the possibility that ancient cultures were influenced by forces outside of Earth's history. However, not all explanations lean toward the extraterrestrial. Some scholars have suggested that the Ica stones might be symbolic, representing mythological themes or serving as educational tools for teaching advanced ideas in an ancient context. These could have been markers of ancient wisdom, passed down through generations but misunderstood or misinterpreted by modern observers. The stone's intricate depictions of surgical procedures, for example, could indicate an early understanding of the human body, perhaps passed down through generations of healers and shamans. If the Ica stones were, in fact, part of a religious or ritualistic practice, it is possible they were meant to convey spiritual or metaphysical knowledge rather than be a literal depiction of historical events. So, what are we left to conclude about the Ica stones? Are they an elaborate hoax, a remnant of a forgotten civilization with knowledge beyond its time, or a message from another world entirely? The sheer number and variety of the stones suggest that their story is not one of simple forgery or fabrication. Yet the advanced knowledge they appear to contain challenges every assumption about what ancient civilizations were capable of. Perhaps, as with so many ancient mysteries, the truth lies somewhere in between the conventional explanations and the more speculative theories. As we ponder the true origin of the Ica stones, we are left with one undeniable conclusion. the mysteries of the ancient world are far from solved. These stones, etched with images of dinosaurs and futuristic technologies, remind us that the past is a vast and uncharted landscape, one that may hold answers to questions we've yet to ask. Could there have been civilizations with knowledge far ahead of their time? Knowledge that we can only begin to rediscover? Or is the true story of the Ica Stones yet to be revealed, hidden beneath the layers of time, waiting for the right questions to be asked? Whatever the answer may be, the Ica Stones stand as a testament to the enduring mystery of human history, a mystery that continues to intrigue and inspire those who dare to look deeper into the past.